All right, I've got 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, I call this meeting of the Saginaw City Council to order. Please rise for the pledges. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. That was two. Item C is the invocation. I don't see Joe here, Reverend Joe. Do not see Pastor Joe. Anybody here want to do say the pledge? Or the pledge. Say the invocation. Any volunteers, council or audience? You want to do it? Brian, please.
Please bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for today, for the many blessings that you've given us, the way that you've blessed our lives. Lord, I ask that you would be over us tonight, that we would, up here on the dais, that we would make decisions that are good for the city, that honor you and glorify you in all these things. And pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brack. D is audience participation. That is listed on the screen. Any item that is listed on the agenda, you are allowed to speak on. Please see there's a list over there by the chief. Fill that out, and you can speak when the time is appropriate on any item that is on the agenda. Moving to the consent agenda. A couple ones we're going to pull. 2E, we will take no action. That will be moved to next time because of a quorum issue with the Parks Board. 2H, we will pull as well. And 2, we will do, so what we'll do A, B, C, and D. Let me read them. 2A, action regarding minutes of April 15th. B, action regarding approval of purchase 2 unmarked units for police department. 2C, action regarding approval of professional service agreement with Campos Engineering. D, action regarding bid award for Opal Joe Jennings and Brian Swingler Memorial Park. So I'll entertain a motion on 2A, B, C, and D currently.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve 2A, B, C, and D as presented.
Okay. Brack, second. Please cast your votes.
You got to push a,
I have been.
oh, it's not coming up.
They don't like me.
How do you vote? How do you vote, Nick? You vote yes? Yes. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. Councilmember Junkersfield needs to excuse herself for F, G, and H. And I. Yes, ma'am.
May we start with 2E and make a motion to table?
You want? We need to table it. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to table 2E. Brack.
I'll make that motion.
Cindy, second? Okay. We will table this until the next council meeting. Brack. Cindy.
I don't know what it is. I can see that they did it, but it's not giving me a voting.
That's a yay as well. Okay. Thank you. So that 2E is tabled.
Mayor, you got to vote.
I did. I thought I did. Sorry. My bad. Okay. Now we're on to 2. I have a 2F. Action regarding approval of retired fire station asbestos abatement consultant. 2G, action regarding approval of retired fire station asbestos abatement contractor. Any questions on 2F and 2G? Not, I'll entertain a motion for those two. I thought you wanted to pull H.
We'll pull all 3.
You want to pull H or pull all 3? I know, that's what I was. Okay, you want to discuss them all? Okay. Let's discuss all 3, Chief. F, G, and H to you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In your packet, I tried to put a pretty explanatory email in there. The big difference from our first conversations to now is the price obviously went up a little bit with little more exploratory effort on how much asbestos was there. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Questions for Chief?
Yeah. I was curious because it more than doubled. You know, because when we talked to you, you were pretty certain the original price was what it was going to be, and it was just a shocker to see it
Yeah,
increase so
it went up
much.
pretty significantly. Most of that is due to the demolition that's required on the, to Larry's credit. They went back and looked at it again. They included a contractor, and they were able to get in there a little more and look inside the walls and tear some pieces loose, which I think is not normal procedure to do that, but to our benefit. So most of that's related to the demolition. When it's left, all the interior walls, with the exception of masonry walls, will be torn out of there, so it'll be just essentially an empty box. So most of the cost is attributed to that.
Okay, so do we expect a shift in what the demo of the rest of the area is going to be?
I'm
So-
sorry?
So do we expect the demo of the rest of the facility to be lower now because of this, or
It will be ultimately, yeah, a lot of the material that would be removed in the demo will be gone at that point, yes, for whatever the development ends up being.
so the balance of what we had talked about earlier, are we still looking at that same price, or are we looking at that to increase as well?
And I'm not sure.
Because we had
of-
talked about 350 for the overall price for the
Oh,
demo.
to take it all the way down to the
Take it all
dirt?
the way down.
This would have been part of that total cost, whatever that estimate was. It was around 350 or something
So
like that.
the question is, are we looking at that total cost increasing as well?
Miss-
Or is this increase in the asbestos statement
Mr. Mayor.
going to cover part of the demo cost?
If the decision's made to demo the whole building in the future, and I'm not sure we've discussed that, but I would think that cost would be cheaper because a lot of the interior
Okay,
materials
that's what I
will be
was
gone.
asking.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Folks for F, G, and H? We're having some technical difficulties here. If no other questions on F, G, and H, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve 2F, G, and H.
Bragg, second. Please cast your votes.
I know it was on there.
I can't do them all together? You sure? Okay. I trust you, I'm just asking. This is 2F. Please cast your votes on 2F. Okay, so now I'll entertain a motion for 2G.
Mayor, make a motion we approve 2G.
Okay? Bragg, second.
I really fixed it now, it's totally black.
Motion passes. All right, a motion for 2H.
I make a motion we approve item 2H on the consent agenda.
Okay. All right. Motion passes. Let me get Valerie.
Where's our IT guy?
That's okay. That's one confusion. All right, thank you, folks. Moving forward, 3A, employee recognition presentation. Gabe, what do we have?
Mayor and council, I think we have at least one recognition tonight. Pedro.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Councilmember Lawson, we're working on it right now remotely, so we should be putting up for you pretty soon. If y'all recall, in February, I was moved up to a Director of Economic and Community Engagement, and with that, the communications position needed to be filled, and I want to introduce Alina Davis. She is the new Communications Specialist for the city. She comes from Keller. She used to work there at the Parks and Rec Department. She worked in many special events and also outreach for their Parks and Rec department. She has many stories from Keller. And she is about to graduate from UNT this weekend, so we're excited for her.
Here, here.
And Alina Davis, I don't know if you want to say.
Welcome.
I just want to say that I'm really excited to be here. This is a big step up for me, so I'm excited for what the future holds, and I appreciate this opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have you here. Thank you. All right. Gabe, anything else? Any other items?
No, I just wanted to clarify, she completed her bachelor's degree, so we may try to recruit her to pursue a master's degree.
Right.
at UT.
Excellent. Good deal. All right. Thank you, folks. All right. Item 3B, I'm going to move 3B down to after 4C. So we're going to drop 3B a bit for a couple of reasons. We'll move on to 3C. Discussion regarding NWECC annual report. JT, didn't recognize you in street clothes, buddy, but welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us. Real quick, before we get going, we do have some magnets for anyone on the council or in attendance. Let's just get our updated, phone numbers, general NWECC instructions.
Awesome.
And it's just an example of one of the things that we've prepared to help get the word out and educate the community about what NWECC is. So it's great to be with you tonight. We have a lot of wonderful things to share with you. So let's get going. So just to remind you of what our mission is, and that's to make communities safer by providing innovative emergency communication services. I doubt that you would find an emergency communication center that values innovation the way that we do, but we truly want to be at the tip of the spear when it comes to doing this work that we're doing in partnership with you. And so we made that a core part of who we are and our identity and our mission. Our values are efficiency, community, and connection. Efficiency is pretty self-explanatory. The community element represents our two cities in partnership. But connection is what I wanted to point out to you tonight. And that has to do with the IT components that are involved. When we built NWECC, we wanted to make sure that it was built on a strong foundation of cybersecurity, knowing that that was one of the greatest threats posed to an organization like us. Want to make sure you know who everybody is on the team. There is no way that we would be able to do what we're doing with NWECC without Whitney and our leadership team. So Whitney is our manager, and then Aaron and Haley are our two supervisors. And we are fully staffed and have been fully staffed throughout the year. There have been a couple of changes. We had a young lady leave the center to go attend the police academy. But we have no problems hiring and recruiting at NWECC. So proud to share with you that we have a full team of some very capable and experienced telecommunicators. So to say that we hit the ground running was an understatement. This past year, NWECC has already reached the top of several categories. And I'm proud to share with you last year at the Texas Public Safety Conference, Whitney was recognized as the Supervisor of the Year. And then one of our supervisors was recognized by Texas NENA as a Silent Hero Award winner. We also had a big year this year, but I'll save those accolades for when we come back and reflect on 2025. We were also nominated for a TML Municipal Excellence Award. We did not win, but we felt that it was an honor to be nominated in our first year as a center.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the Silent Hero?
So there are two predominant organizations, professional organizations for telecommunicators. One is APCO and the other one is NENA. A Silent Hero Award is just to recognize a standout individual within their center. So just an accolade for being a top performer in your communication center. It's important across the board, but especially when you're doing something new, to engage with the community and make sure that they understand who we are, what we do, and how we serve them. So we made a concerted effort this year, knowing it was our first year in operation, To really get involved in both communities, we participated in National Night Out, both in Saginaw and Lake Worth. With a divide and conquer mentality, we sent half of our team to Lake Worth and half of our team to Saginaw. Got in the vehicle with officers, rode around. One of the things that we distributed were those magnets just to get word out into the community. Over on the Lake Worth side, we do a Pops with Cops event, and NWECC was present there. And then throughout the year, we did a variety of different tours and small speaking engagements with civic and religious groups. The Saginaw CPA was a part of that. They came over and did a tour of the center. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, homeschool groups, religious organizations, and then we also did a few different partnerships with some internship programs. We have a variety of interns that cycle through the Lake Worth side, and we always make sure that they get time in the communication center to see and understand what it's all about. This year, we may have our very first dedicated NWECC intern. So I'll report back to you next year on whether or not that actually comes to fruition. This is going to be similar to the report that you receive every month, but we've zoomed out and we're going to look at it over the 12 months of 2024 rather than individual months. The KPAs and KPIs are the same. There are just more of them compiled over the course of the year. Just as a reminder, we have 4 predominant key performance areas that we look at. That's on the emergency call answering side, the administrative call answering side, customer satisfaction, and then quality assurance. And then within those, we have an incredible amount of individual performance measures that we look at. So we'll start first with the first KPA, which is the emergency call handling. This is one of the only ones that has an established standard. So the NENA standard is that we answer all emergency calls, or 90% of emergency calls, in less than or equal to 15 seconds. As you can see, throughout the year, we remain steady in the 99th percentile of emergency call answering, meaning that we met that standard 99% of the time. And you can see that the variations that we did have were by tenths or even hundredths of a percentage in some cases. Then the second, there's no established standard for this, so we stepped in and created our own. We believed that it was a best service or a best practice to the community to answer those calls in less than 5 seconds. We felt that it was reasonable that if you call 911, you want someone to answer quickly. And you can see that there's not a lot of variation in these numbers, and we wanted to know what we could do to get them lower. And so when we took off to explore that, what we discovered is that the majority of that time from the time the call is placed until we answer is spent routing through the cellular network. It didn't have anything to do with what our operators were or were not doing in the call center. It was the time spent to get that call from a device to the actual center. Now looking at administrative call answering. So these are not emergencies, but these are people who are reaching out to the police department for some kind of service. You can see that there's not a lot of difference between the administrative call answering and the emergency call answering that you saw. As I mentioned before, when I've visited with you, we do prioritize, obviously, emergency calls. So it is natural to see that the non-emergency calls are just a little bit higher because oftentimes we receive both at the same time and our communicators have to make a decision about which one they're going to get to first. Speed of answer, same here. We want to make sure that when a citizen reaches out to the dispatch center that they feel like they're getting prompt service. We want to answer those calls quickly. And we actually trended lower as the year went on. Now, wanting to do a good job and actually having the data to prove that you do a good job are 2 different things. So we do have a survey feature that's built in that sends out a survey to callers after they've called the center. We don't survey every caller, but we survey a percentage of callers. The KPI standard that we've set for positive Satisfaction is at 90%. We want 90% of the people we survey to be satisfied with the service they receive. And as you can see, we far exceeded that. We actually went on and this is to the credit of our team, they had, excuse me, 7 consecutive months of 100% positive feedback. And I know, and I've mentioned to you before, that sounds too good to be true. And being a skeptic myself, I went and looked for myself, and I read all of those comments. I checked to make sure that nothing was missed, and it was absolutely true. So incredibly proud of our team for not only providing a high level of service, but ensuring that those that call and interact with them actually feel that.
What percentage of the calls get the survey? Ballpark?
15 to 20%.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't go higher on that?
We do want to go higher. There's just a lot involved, and each survey is custom tailored to the call type. So we want to settle on the call types and make sure there's no changes that are going to be needed there. Then we can expand and grow the survey. So in our first year, we knew that we would probably have to change some call types as we worked with Saginaw to kind of just even things out. And so we've been very slow to roll that out so that we didn't have to go back and repeat work. But this next year, that's a goal of ours. If you walk into my office, I have a big whiteboard, and expanding the survey is on my whiteboard, and it's going to be a priority for us this year.
Is this for emergency calls only, or is it emergency administrative?
Both.
Okay.
Both, yes, ma'am. And then we want to make sure that we're getting a good response rate on those surveys. From an academic perspective, 10% is a great place to be, and we average over 30% for our response rate. So really pleased with that as well. There have been a lot of questions about the survey, so I put one together for you tonight if you want to take it. If you have your cell phone, you can scan that QR code and see what it would be like as someone who actually receives it. And for those of you in the audience or staff in attendance, you're welcome to pull your phone out and take that survey as well. You'll actually be leaving feedback for me. So I'm asking for your thoughts and your feedback on what we did tonight and the quality of the presentation and any recommendations or suggestions you would have for me personally. I felt that it would be beneficial for you to be able to see it and experience it yourself rather than just have me talk about it. And I promise to read each and every one of them. Did you need me to go back? Don't miss it.
No, I'm running into an issue.
Okay. All right, moving on to quality assurance. Quality assurances are our internal measures to ensure that we're doing what our policy and procedure says. We have individual KPIs that we look at here for call taking and then radio usage or the dispatching of the call. Over the year, you can see that we did a lot of internal checks and evaluations and overall had incredibly high scores. This is a very labor-intensive process. We're doing each one of these by hand, where the call taker would have to pull the radio traffic, pull the phone call, listen to it, fill out a 2-page questionnaire that ultimately scores their performance. That would have to be routed to their supervisor. Each individual had to do one call taker. Was it one? Is it one? One call taker and one dispatching evaluation. Then they do a peer evaluation of both, and then a supervisor does an evaluation of both. So you can see how much time that takes every month to perform these. And with the volume of calls that we're receiving, we're only able to QA a really, really, really small percentage of calls. Knowing that that was a blind spot, we explored the use of AI in our QA process. And we found a company called GovWorks that plugs into the backside of our server and is able to look at our CAD system and is able to look at our phone recordings and match those two things against our quality assurance sheet. And so what we were able to do with GovWorks is to go from performing a quality assurance check on less than 1% of our total calls to now we're near 100%. AI is running constantly in the background, providing near real-time feedback to our supervisors and our telecommunicators on their performance. So we're in the very initial stages of implementing this technology, but so far, we are very pleased with it. And going back to our mission of prioritizing innovation, this is a very innovative approach that not a lot of cities or communication centers are using. We're one of the first to implement this technology, and we're considering other technologies, one of which is an assistant. Think of it like, when you log into a website, if you've ever seen the little module or widget pop up on the side that says, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm here to help you if you have any questions. AI, we're able to dump in our policies and procedures and training manuals, and based on the call type that populates, it can help the dispatchers in real time ask certain questions that they may have forgotten to ask because it was a high stress environment or what have you. So we are trying to remain on the forefront of innovation and having a really open mind to technologies like this. Overall call volume, it did increase a little bit. This graph is a little bit misleading. You'll see that it begins at 300 and tops out at 380. If you zoom out from that, it's not very much of a difference. It's about 10% from the second quarter to the third quarter. We don't have any other years to compare this to, so we don't know if it's an anomaly, if this is a trend that we can expect year over year, but it's something that we'll keep an eye on. And it was by no means unmanageable for our team.
We're looking at 300-plus calls per hour?
Yes, ma'am. During peak time, which is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
That's a lot of calls.
That's a lot of calls, yes, ma'am.
And how many cities do we have in?
Just two.
Just two.
Lake Worth, Saginaw, and then Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD. We don't field a ton of calls for them, but we do a few. But it is very busy in there, which I think is really important to remember that our team is performing at a really high level, really high customer satisfaction with this volume of call.
I thought we had other cities involved, tied in with us, or?
We were providing service on a temporary basis to Blue Mound and Lakeside early on, but those were not permanent partnerships.
You should have led with this. You should have
This part?
led with this. You sort of buried the lead, but it
Yes.
makes it even more impressive,
Yes,
the
sir.
previous data.
And that is really all I have for you tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for Chief? Brack?
So are you doing any cross-checking of the AI? So just to make sure that what the AI is providing has been double-checked by a human that
Yes.
is looking into it and...
I'm going to be really honest with you. Some of that is over my head. Whitney has shepherded that project from the beginning, knows far more about it than I do. Whitney, if you would like to speak on how that's being checked.
Hello. Yeah, we do. Anything that's scored below an 80% in the AI is reviewed by a supervisor. At this point, that's not standard across the country. Most departments that utilize this program, they start at like 65 to 70. I wasn't willing to go that low. So anything that scores below an 80 by AI is reviewed by a supervisor. It goes into a queue, and then they evaluate it from there. And it's really not, there might be just a couple a day. And usually it's like the recording broke and the AI didn't catch something, but they go back and they listen to the recording, and so it's evaluated at that point.
Would you also share how NWECC compares to other centers across the country who are using this technology?
When we first went live with them, they were very impressed. We started in like 73% overall on an average with getting the AI to get used to how our processes are and all of those things. Because of course you have to teach AI some aspects of how you function. And when we were at that point, probably 6, 7 months ago, I can't remember. They were like, what are you guys doing? No one scores this high. They said most departments, when they plug the AI in, started about a 40 to 45%, just because their procedures are not consistent across the board. But I feel like, although it's very time consuming and manpower, we were doing a very good job on those manual QAs, and our dispatchers love them. Like, if you come and talk to our communicators, you will see that, and those of you that have came and visited us with the CPA, they love the QAs. They truly grasp onto them and empower or embody what they bring to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for Chief?
Comment, I'd encourage council to go over and tour the facility and see what's going on there, and also see the flock system that we have now, and see how that all works, because it's very informative.
I got two questions. Now that you've ramped up, you're in stride now, so to say. What has been your biggest obstacle that you guys didn't account for that kind of came up and you're like, ooh, you're unexpected that you've had to resolve for?
I don't know that I have a solid answer for that. I'll be completely honest. I did not expect it to go as well as it's gone.
Well, that's a good one to have.
I learned early on in my career to anticipate, rough spots and hardships and things not going according to plan. And I did with this, and everything went according to plan. I'm not naive enough to, pretend that nothing will ever, that'll be perfect forever, but I anticipated problems and we haven't had.
And that leads into my next question. What keeps you up at night now looking into the future? What's out there that's...
For me, it's growth. How do we scale NWECC to accommodate the growth of our communities? We feel like we have a plan for that. When we proposed NWECC, we had a 3-phase growth plan. We're only in phase 1 now, so I feel like we can grow for a number of years with the plan that we currently have in place. But if it continues to grow, then we may have to consider what NWECC is, and does it continue to live with one city? Does it become its own entity? I don't really know. I can't say that keeps me up at night, but it is something that I find myself thinking about a lot.
Your numbers are awesome, by the way.
Thank you. And with all due respect, they are not mine. They are Whitney and her teams.
Here. Other questions for Chief? You can come up there and you can ask a question right there if you want to. Yes, sir.
So just a quick question for you. How many cities do you actually support currently?
2 cities and 1 school district.
Okay, so your bandwidth can support Saginaw, Blue Mound, this particular area?
We have a phased growth plan that would allow us to support additional cities, but we would have to hire additional folks in order to do that.
Okay, so currently we're not there as far as your...
We are in full support of our current partners. So
Okay.
Lake Worth, Saginaw, and Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, we fully support with plenty of room for growth.
I just wanted to know. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Any other questions for Chief? No? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you.
Well done. Keep it up. Great work. 3D, discussion regarding carport specific use permitting. Chief Doug Spears.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This was placed on the agenda so council would have an opportunity to discuss and consider revision to the carport ordinance, specifically the SUP requirement. We have staff here to assist in the discussion and answer questions. Staff remains neutral, but we are seeking some direction or consensus in regard to revising the ordinance or leaving it as is. And with that, we'll defer to you and answer any questions.
Yeah, council? Questions, comments?
Yeah, I was
Paul?
one of the ones that requested this. I know the SUP process takes a lot of staff time and time of that, so I was looking to see if we needed to require the SUP. And part of that too is, I know with the SUP, we can designate building materials and stuff, where if it's not an SUP, I don't know if we can do that or not. That's probably a question for Bryn.
Yeah, so if you want me to just give you the background on what your options are, then it's just to assist with the deliberation. So the preemption on building materials only applies to buildings. So carports are not buildings. And so you can specify, the SUP allows you to attach conditions to it. If you wanted to do it a different way, you could still attach conditions to it depending on which option you choose. So right now you have the SUP process. If you decided you wanted to streamline it and still wanted a discretionary review process, you could allow it by special exception instead. Special exceptions, it's one stop, public hearing at the BOA, and council has no input at all. The Board of Adjustment decides what's allowed and can attach conditions to approval, and you have to get 4 out of 5 members of the BOA to agree to approve it, or it fails. A simple majority means you don't get your carport.
And at BOA, it doesn't have to come to council, it's done after BOA, right?
Yep, it's one stop instead of 2, no going to P&Z, no going to council, and whatever Board of Adjustment's decision is, council has no way to override that, unless it's through its own Board of Adjustment, which happens from time to time. And then the final process is, and I'll let the chief weigh in on the logistics of it. If you want to fully detail the types of carports that are allowed in such a way that it is objective, easy to understand standards, you can delegate the full authority to staff. And as long as the application meets your criteria, and check all the boxes, not larger than this, not taller than this, doesn't encroach in any setbacks, staff is required to say yes on every one of those that meets the criteria. So those are essentially all of your options. So with respect to the building materials, the SUP, you can attach it on a case-by-case basis, what materials you want. Special exception, you can attach building materials on a case-by-case basis. Ministerial process, you need to decide what those materials are upfront for every carport. And in order to change that, you would need to bring the ordinance back.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Brent. Yeah, go ahead, chief.
we did in the recommendations put some approved materials and some prohibited materials. So I guess my question is for Bryn, if we amend the ordinance without the SUP, can we include the prohibited materials and improved materials in that? Are we allowed to do that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and candidly, if you say these are the only approved materials, just by implication, every other material is prohibited.
Okay. So we did include some language for you to consider in that if we go that direction.
Okay.
And that's from the building official and trying to stay consistent with the building code and other regulations that we have in the city.
Excellent. Questions, council? Bragg?
Is there, if it goes to Board of Adjustments and only 3 of them approve, is there an appellate process?
The district court.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the good and bad of it. It's the end of the road, but it's a quicker match.
Okay, thank you.
One,
There's not a fee attached to that process. I guess that's one of the points of contention of the current SUP is the cost.
We changed the cost of that, so it's, when this originally got put in, it was like some ridiculous amount, $600 to get in, and then it's no longer that, it's the same cost of a.
And what's the fee now?
zone burp pit.
$375? $375, okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Cindy, go ahead.
The fee is up to you all. It's staff time incurred.
Yeah. So I,
Here, wait, Cindy had a question. Go ahead.
So I was looking at the approved materials, item number 6, minimum buried depth is 1/3 of the height of the post. Do you know how hard the ground is here? Trying to get something in, if you have 10 foot, trying to get something in, 3.5 feet. Pretty hard to do with all the rock and stuff that we have.
I would defer to the building official on that, but I think that's a standard requirement, is it not?
Yeah, I understand that, but the problem is it's got to be the wind speed, and in order to do that, that goes along with that.
Okay.
That's the depth
not had any problems with that, so I don't.
They have breaker bars that break up rocks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to hand dig it, I would put it that way.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I do a
Just-
lot of that.
So just so we're thinking, this is what we're regurgitating here in this is a standard then. There must be a state standard or some type of standard for wind shear, things like that, that the foundation or the post needs to be that deep?
Yes, every zone region has a wind speed applied to it.
Okay.
And that's where that comes into play is the depth of it to meet those wind speeds. Right now, that's where we're at.
Okay.
Council, other questions?
Yeah.
You done, Cindy? I'm sorry. Okay.
I got a couple. One, I'm very concerned about this. We're putting a lot of attention on a carport. And I just this past weekend, by one of the other councilmen, drove by a building that we allowed to get built over on the other side of Saginaw, which is nothing more than basically a barn that I would build out on my property to store tractors, okay? And, I mean, I like to apply the same thing across this. So I have a really hard time really being so strict on carports. And if any council member wants to, we can give you the address to drive by. But I mean, it's
It's big.
it's big.
It's very
and it's
big.
bold.
And
And
it's
it doesn't match the building in one iota. Literally, it's something I would build on my farm to put tractors on. Okay?
But
So-
there's another one about around the corner at the end of the court that's very big
So you've
too.
seen it too, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, so, so there's where we need to apply, to me, the same thing to all of our citizens and not this. And I look at this and I go, boy, so, I don't know what ordinance allowed them to build this. It's my understanding the state comes in and says that there's no control, but I mean, if you can build this, if I can go tomorrow and build this in my side yard, I don't see why we're wearing another neighbor out for a simple carport. As long as the carport is, I mean, I would say looks nice, but this thing, there's nothing nice about this thing, unless it's on a 200-acre farm with a John Deere tractor in it.
I mean, you do have, I guess,
Huh?
to your point, you do have a fourth option, and that is to allow it by right in all residential districts and simply require that it comply with the building code and not get into the weeds on how it looks.
Right, and there are certain HOAs that have ordinances against that, though,
That's
policies
right.
against
They
that.
have deed restrictions
Right.
that prohibit it, and then the neighbors sue each other where the HOA
Right,
is.
but it's only a certain part of town where this is really applicable, areas that don't have an HOA. That's really the areas we're looking at. And I would caution, the ones we've approved are very nice, they're beautiful. Are they a little more expensive? Maybe a little more, and take some time. But what happens when somebody puts up a trashy one? Because if we allow it by right, that's what'll happen. And is that how you want Saginaw to look?
Well, here,
And my answer is no.
look at that.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna worry about other projects. Let's talk about where we are, what we can do, and that's with these carports. Do you want Saginaw to look trashy? Because that's what could happen. It may not. I'm saying that's what could happen if you open it up. I like some of the stuff we put up. Do we want to make it a little easier for folks? We could, but I still think some guardrails are appropriate. Or you're gonna get some very substandard looking, potentially some substandard looking carports. Is that what we want?
So this gentleman, he could not build a carport, and he could give it another name, an attachment, wrap it all the way around his house, as long as he don't come within so many feet of his side property. He can build the biggest monstrosity he wants to, and there ain't a dadgum thing the city can do about it. Right?
I don't, Larry, can you speak towards the building they're referring to over there? You can provide some background on that.
Nothing but complaints.
So to give you some background on the house on the address you're talking about, Fire Court, it's a building addition.
Oh, it is.
And you gotta remember, and that sets it apart than a detached accessory or an accessory detached. The one thing you've gotta remember is a lot of the builders fought for this to have masonry, and I think Brent would know this, basically, we don't have the right to require masonry. So it has to be a commercial available material. And I'll be honest with you, this gentleman has took full advantage of those laws that are put in place and our ordinances, which are standard with a lot of cities, and he's done exactly that. He's gone beyond, I will tell you, he's made a lot of changes to existing house, though, to meet this. Those rooms that he had are no longer bedrooms. They had to take the closets out because they can't be considered bedrooms because there's egress windows on the outside. Those had to be bricked up on the, what's under there is what you don't see. But that is a building addition, and that's why he's allowed to do that.
And the irony too is the preemption that, I mean, you know how the legislature works. It's hit or miss and lobbyists, et cetera. I mean, the irony is that preemption only applies to residential and commercial buildings. So a city could adopt masonry standards for industrial buildings and would not be preempted.
That's right.
This doesn't make any sense. And for accessory structures, they're also not included. So you could have, you could have restrictions and make them build a very nice carport, and then the house can be, made of tin.
Yeah, that's what this one's made out of.
Yeah.
It's literally a barn.
But it's attached to his house.
It is part of the building now.
I will state this, and I'm, like the mayor on, every carport just came before us has been nice and everything. I'm good with that. This thing here, which I understand ain't the city, it's a state, but that would probably negatively impact the property value of the house right beside of it. I don't see how it couldn't. And so I struggle with, I'm gonna wear you out for a carport, but yet I'm gonna let somebody build a barn that goes on a farm tied, and it ain't even the same color. I mean, it's a barn.
I know.
A tin barn, like you see on a
They
tour.
can't even drive across the yard. They don't have a driveway.
Well,
that's a,
he has permitted that. He does have a driveway
Oh, does
going
he
in.
have a permit? Okay.
Yes.
Well, it hadn't got there yet, so I hadn't.
It's not
I
there
didn't know
yet.
how they was
That
doing
that
that.
is next. He does have a
so
permit.
that's why you see me struggling here, or why
Let's keep the
Why would
focus
I-
on carports, because we're here for carports.
But
Thank you,
I'm-
Larry. Appreciate it.
understand that, but me on the council and looking at citizens across the board, I cannot say, I'm going to look at the carport in isolation, and if you build a carport, I'm gonna wear you out, but yet these people are able to build this. So I have to apply it to me. I'm trying to apply the same stick across and be fair. And again, so.
Adopting the portion that's it's a park that you guys are supposed to be building, it's gonna be going by my house, so can we talk about that, if you don't mind?
That is on the agenda later. Yes, sir, we'll get to it. Please, we will. All right, so other question, back to carports. Let's concentrate on carports. Chief, want to talk about carports? What is the council's pleasure on this carport discussion? Mary, haven't heard from you. What do you got?
We've had, a few people come and build the carports since we had this new ordinance with the specific use permit. And like we've mentioned, they've all been nice. And I wasn't aware until very recently that there's an extra charge for the specific use permit in addition to the permit for building the carport. And as long as they meet the requirements of code, everything else is kind of subjective and difficult to enforce. It's somewhat subjective. So I wouldn't mind getting rid of the specific use permit. They would have to still follow the code. I would like to have a statement in there. It could not be enforced, but it would encourage people perhaps to, when they're building a carport and they've been approved, to make every effort to meet the standards of the neighborhood that they live in, to respect the integrity of the neighborhood as it exists. And that would mean you don't want to build the Taj Mahal carport in an area that has just the basic carports and an older neighborhood with smaller homes. you wouldn't want to build this imposing carport. At the same time, you wouldn't want to build a very plain carport that's the least way to, follow the ordinance in a neighborhood that has, more expensive looking, more pretty, carports. You wouldn't want to build one that is substandard. I think if we had that statement in there to encourage people to follow the integrity of their neighborhood, we couldn't enforce it, but it might help people do that.
Our council, other thoughts, questions?
I mean, I think we need to make it an easier process for people to go through. I don't think we need the SUP process, but I'm fully for, having to go through the building permit process and not just giving them free rein to build it.
Yeah.
So Bryn, will you remind us, you gave us options earlier, will you remind us of those options again, please? We've
Right.
forgotten.
So, sure, SUP process, special exception process, those are both purely discretionary, legislative discretion.
Special exception would go through the BOA.
Goes through the BOA
Okay.
and a much higher voting threshold, and absences on the BOA count as no votes, right? So if you only have 4 members show up out of 5, you need a unanimous decision, rather than just a supermajority decision. But it is one stop, and conditions can be added on a case-by-case basis, looking at what is being proposed to be built. You can tailor it much more carefully. The alternative, then option number 3, do away with the process altogether, have no standards other than you have to meet building code. And option number 4 is you do have standards, but there generally need to be objective standards. Now, if you want to insert some subjectivity to it, like it needs to match the architectural style or paint color of the structure, the single-family dwelling, you could do that, those sorts of things, a little more subjective. If you do that, I would recommend building in an appeal process to council if staff determines that it's inconsistent with the style, right? Because that's going to be subjective. And then you would have an appeal to council. Or if you wanted just purely objective standards, but heightened standards than what the building code requires. Building code only cares about safety. So you could build in some aesthetic standards that are, as long as they're clear, these are the only materials that can be built with. Can't be taller than this, can't be larger than this, et cetera. Then it's a purely ministerial process, and you really wouldn't need an appeal. It would just be based on the criteria, the plain language criteria that you dictated in the ordinance.
Why can't we use the same process we used to build either an attached porch or an unattached shed?
I don't know what that process is.
We don't have a process for that, I don't think.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. Yes,
What-
we do.
So,
Yeah,
Off the
yeah,
top of
he
my
knows what it is, yeah, we do.
So, yes, you're correct. We do have a process for that.
Yes, we do.
Uh,
Both of them.
Carports used to be that way.
Yeah,
It used to go through our department. We would review, we had criteria that it had to meet. What you had is a problem with people building carports that weren't permitted on the weekends, and that's what you're seeing. A lot of carports that are failing out there are not carports that ever had a permit.
But
And
they
ones
run-
that are larger than didn't have a permit.
yeah, but they run the risk if they get caught doing it. they get
Absolutely.
tore- They either have to come in, they have to get a permit, come into compliance, or get tore down. right?
Absolutely. What I don't want to get into is the design as far as architectural. What I want, if you're asking my opinion, it's, you go back to the standards of material that's allowed and not allowed. Give them that criteria, just like we used to do, if that's the way you want to go. And then it goes through our review process. It is a lot faster. It's not,
Do you
it's not the
like that?
extensive. I did it for 17 years here. But again, I want you to tell me what y'all want.
Well, I mean-
That's the guidance I want, is what y'all
I have a
want.
question, So if we went through the process of just like doing like we used to, but they had to bring it to the council so that we could approve maybe not necessarily the architectural, but that it's gonna fit and look nice. So we don't have just a tin piece and some sticks sticking there.
I think that would be your SUP.
That's what we have.
That's a,
That's
it
where we
has
are
to go
today.
under SUP to do that?
That's
I
where we
mean,
are
if you're gonna
today.
take them to count, yeah, and again, you're talking a lot more staff time involved, so you need to pay, that needs to be accounted
But,
for.
I mean, here's what, to me, I don't understand why we don't go back to the way it was. I don't, because you're there, you got the material in which they're gonna build it by. If they follow the standards, and that's what it is, that's why I asked, what you guys put in your thing is going back to an actual standard? And it is, it's a, a state standards, kind of like your plumbing or coding standards, right? Electrical standards. So if you're going by that and they build that, they can't build something that's gonna be either unsafe, and you're specifying the general, these are materials you can't use because it's gonna look trashy if you do. So with that being said, I kind of lean more towards let you do your job,
That is whatever y'all's desire is.
Yeah.
We're gonna follow the rules.
Oh,
we
yeah, I
set
know
for it.
that. I guess help me. I don't want to dump something on you guys that would burden you. So tell me if we say, okay, we're going to make these changes, it's going to go back to the way it was with the building materials and the way it's recommended, what would be the negative to that for you guys? Or would it cost you all more effort, or would it cost you less effort? Would it,
No, just the subjectiveness that you're gonna get no matter what you do. I mean, you may not like the color they put up. The general is white, but you may not like that.
Yeah, well, if they live in an HOA, the HOA gets to pick that. I don't think the city should be dictating what color a man's house should be. That's
Really,
just
the
my
only
personal
change is
opinion.
that they're going in where they used to did not be allowed. That's really the only change if we go that route.
Yeah, 'cause
Staff
we-
can
we-
certainly take care of.
Because we include the
ordinance.
SUP process, because before it was a no. The
Correct.
carports were a no completely across the board. Then we brought the SUP to give them an option. It may be a little onerous, we want to tweak it, but before it was no option. That's when we went to the SUP, to give an option for carports. That's what people were asking for. So is it the best option? Maybe we need to make it a little softer, I don't know, however you want to phrase it. But I don't want to throw it on Larry and his team. I don't want to make them make calls, architectural calls or aesthetic calls. You shouldn't have to do that. That's not fair. So I want to make it by ordinance as straightforward for his team as possible and for staff.
I think with the feedback we got, we can create the ordinance where it is objective and not subjective, and try to meet the intent of what you're
Is that what
proposing there.
is that what council would like? Cindy, go ahead.
One of the concerns I have with having a list of approved materials or even prohibited materials is that, technology is changing and there's new materials coming out every time. And if I understood Bryn correctly, if it's not on the approved materials, it's on the prohibited materials. So if something new comes out that's innovative and stronger and better, I would like to propose what Nick says, because then, it fits within a standard and it provides more options and more flexibility. I just don't want to deny anybody the right of something that could be better, maybe less expensive. For example, the last job I had, we were building field recording units, and it was costing us $750 to manufacture each housing. We found out at 3D printing, we could print the exact same thing. It was stronger and better and more durable at a cost of $50 per unit. So I don't want to deny anybody that opportunity.
And even the code, though, does say any other approved materials, because you're right. Materials change, and there's a database, ICC, that we get every year that updates us on new materials. It goes through a whole process, and that's what we determined to use a lot of that material. So if he was to put that verb, I think is a great idea, it would allow us the discretion to do that, as long as it does meet that criteria.
And the city's not limiting
Sure,
what
yeah.
this,
Yeah.
we're using state or federal standards to limit.
And that's right out of our building code, to be honest with you, so it
And
wouldn't hurt.
that's
but it- yeah.
the method I prefer.
I really like Chief Spears' recommendation. You all write it up. You said you could. Let's make it happen. That's my opinion.
Mary, go ahead, Mary.
And that new ordinance would come before us. And so we would then have another chance to look at it and see, oh, I wish you could add this or subtract this or whatever.
Correct.
So,
It would be a revision to the current ordinance. It would go back before you.
I think we have consensus. Is that what council wants? Chief write up the new ordinance, Chief and Brent write up the new ordinance, bring it to us, we'll review and go from there. Everybody good with that? I don't think we need to take any action on this, right? Thank you, Larry. Appreciate your help. Thank you, Chief. All right, moving forward. 3E, Economic Community Engagement Department update. Director of Economic Community Engagement, Pedro Zambrano.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm looking at the agenda, and it reminds me of when Rick Trice was here. So I'm the new Rick Trice, apparently, because I'll be talking to you for the next few hours. So we're going to be briefed with this presentation.
You going to be grumpy too, or what?
You know what? I might move on to maybe shorts in the middle of it. If you haven't seen him retired, he's wearing shorts and just enjoying his time. So again, this is just an update, very short update. I'm assuming we're going to come back at a later time to give you guys an additional update sometime in the next few months. And let's see if the clicker works. So this is the department name, Economic and Community Engagement. So what exactly does that consist of? It includes the economic development side of the city and also the community engagement. Now, community engagement, it sounds like a nice little word. One, because we're tailor typing this department like Rowlett does. It's one of the other few cities in our area that has both economic development and communications under it. And community engagement consists of communications, marketing, outreach, and special events for the time being. So this is the overview we're going to go over on economic development. We're going to do a quick little intro. We're talking about recruitment, retention, workforce, and Chamber of Commerce, the current programs, and future programs and future next steps. I apologize. I need to get to my notes, so I want to get ahead of myself. So the big question is, what is economic development? The U.S. Economic Development Administration, that is their definition right there. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Creating conditions and economic growth and improve quality of life by expanding capacity of individuals, so on and so forth. That's very long. So what does it actually, let's narrow it down. It is business development and community development. That's what economic development as a whole does. So it is the recruitment, retention, expansion, entrepreneurship, and tourism on the business side. On the community side, it's leadership development, workforce development, social infrastructure, which is quality of life, and physical infrastructure. And it is not just the role of me or the city, it's the role of everybody in this room, including our residents behind me, our businesses, our school district, because these are the roles of economic development. As you can tell, I did not put economic development director, economic development department, economic development city folks. It's economic development as a whole, which is active listening, event planning. I'm going to go host and hostess. We hosted folks from Tokyo, Japan just recently last month in our Miller Milling opening. We are researchers, we are facilitators. Everybody has a role in economic development. The reason why it's very important that we have a good police department and a fire department is because those companies that want to come to Saginaw want to be able to know that their future employees have safe living conditions. Our parks as well, we want a good quality of life with our parks, because if those employees come in and we don't have good parks, the businesses are going to say, hey, the other city right down the street has better parks, let's move down there. Quality of life, schools, if the schools are very important. It's the one thing that somebody looks at when they're moving to somewhere. It's like, what's the school? Our school district is very great. We have a great relationship, thanks to Lieutenant Crippen, who should be behind me. Is he still behind me? There he is, he's still behind me. He is our go-to school district person. All right, any questions so far? I apologize, I'm just gonna. All right, we are moving on. So recruitment and attraction. So what does that mean? That means we are trying to bring new businesses, new investment into the city. One of our key folks there is the retail coach. Later on the agenda, we'll be talking a little bit more about them. So our 2016 strategic plan talked about recruitment and hiring I forgot exactly what it said, but it was a merchandise company, and that is the retail coach. We have completed that in our 2016 strategic plan. Additional stuff, I talked to Larry just before this meeting, I put bagels on my notes, but it's Einstein Brothers and Firehouse Sub. They're still reviewing under permit, so if you ask me that question, we're still reviewing under their permitting, and we're gonna get them pretty much up and running pretty soon. Down the street, right next to the Chicken Express. We also have the Square Apartments. We're also doing that as well, right behind, well, not behind Walmart, but just north of Walmart. And we have some additional things coming soon. Any questions about recruiting or attraction? Yes.
Everybody keeps asking about Brahms
Yes.
and HEB.
You know, I joke around. If I get an HEB and a Brahms, I'm just going to retire and hang out with Rick Trice. I'm just going to call it a day and not even do my 20.
Yeah, we'll build you a statue if you can get both of those, bro.
Thank you. If I could get an HEB and a Brahms, I will. Yes, we will definitely get a statue. Maybe a small one, just because I am 5'7", and you got to remind everybody that short people
Dwayne Wade
exist.
statue.
Oh, well, maybe I could put myself somewhere in next to the park or and the HEB parking lot.
So talking about Brahms, I know we've flirted, we've talked with Brahms, they've talked back to us a few times. Can you give us a little, because we have people ask us too, hey, we need a Brahms. What is exactly Brahms looking for? And do we even have any space which would meet their criteria?
So that's a good question. I remember when I was an intern here back, I think 2017, 2018, Brahms was looking at Saginaw Boulevard. Unfortunately, I believe they need about 3 acres to come in, and Saginaw Boulevard is very scarce with property. So we have to see either who's going to be redeveloping, who's going to be tearing down something. Some other possibilities is the good thing is Old Decatur is very busy, so that's a potential spot we could give them in the future. Just to get on your point, so Brahms is looking at owning the property. They don't want to do a ground lease at all, and they're looking for decent pricing. But we could definitely reach out to Retail Coach, because Retail Coach essentially is our go-to. They have contacts within Brahms. I do know we restarted conversations with them pretty recently. I'm not promising a Brahms, though.
And
I'm going to say tonight, we're not promising any businesses.
No, I can give a little update on the Brahms piece, because we've talked to the folks that own at Old Decatur and Bose. They're looking for activities, and they've actually they have a contact at Brahms. They've reached out to them. One of the issues with Brahms can't be on the east side because they have a distance, and they're too close to Western Center, but the west side, Old Decatur would work. And those folks have reached out to Brahms, and Brahms has not been very receptive to them, so they've tried. Not even just us, it was the landowner reached out to Brahms on that, because they asked me, what would you want? I said, I would love to have a Brahms. I said, you get me a Brahms, you can have it, go for it. And they've tried. I don't know if they've tried recently or if it's been an issue, and I don't know what Brahms' issue is, but we have reached out. Not just the city level, but developers have reached out as well.
And you said the corner of WJ Bose and, okay.
Yes, sir.
I don't have my pen on me, but I'll try to remember, and I'll listen to this recording back just to
I
make
said,
sure.
you were in that meeting when
Yeah,
we
I
talked
was in that
last
meeting,
time,
yeah.
So,
Mayor?
yes, sir.
I've been trying to contain myself, which is difficult. Economic development is an exciting topic, and Pedro's doing a great job, as well as Susie. But you have seen comments on social media, or maybe you heard this in person. People will say, we need this or that. We need a Brahms. We need an HEB. On those 2 points, I completely agree. I'm addicted, lock, stock, and barrel to HEB coffee. We have it in the break room. What I would like to impress is that the city is not a property owner, right? Nor can the city force a property owner to either sell a parcel or sell it to a specific user. So you'll remember in 2019, we did the Eat and Play survey. Very positive. People said, here's all the things we wanted. A Chili's, and we've gotten a few of those things, thankfully. I'm trying to think. Chipotle was one. We've gotten a Cava, so we've made some progress. But the city's position, we cannot force a sale with private property owners. Not to steal thunder, but a item further down the agenda, when we own property, we have a little more control because we're the property owner can execute. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, try to put a Brahms right there at the fire department. We'd be happy.
We are, Gabe has a good point. We are facilitators. There is another form of government that does force property owners to do things, but we're not in that country or in that form of government. So, all right, moving forward. On recruitment, we also don't pick what comes either. Zoning, there's zoning requirements, not zoning requirements, but zoning classes. So for example, community commercial, you could put anything that's allowed in community commercial, either by right or by SUP. So one of the big ones is chicken places. Unfortunately, we cannot stop chicken places as much as we want. So even if there's a combination chicken or nail restaurant, We will, unfortunately won't be able to stop that because the property owner has the right, according to the state constitution, and if it's zoned and we don't have to do any, they don't have to do any rezoning, we can't control what goes there. All right, yes, Mary.
You know, the funny thing about chicken places, if you go at lunchtime, they're all backed up.
Yeah.
So, Saginaw likes their chicken.
Yes, I'm in line as well.
Mary, you have a question?
Yes. I feel compelled to speak about chicken restaurants. There aren't that many different kinds of meat. Chicken is very popular. And, you know, do you want a steak place, a chicken place, a fish place? You don't have a lot of different choices. I get so upset when people complain about the chicken places. There are different kinds of chicken places. Also, they would not stay in business if people did not go to them. And they have probably done their research. So please don't do that anymore.
That actually reminds me of a story. Popeyes opened, and me and the city manager went just to welcome him to the community. And a gentleman actually buying chicken as we were in line was complaining about the Popeyes as he was buying Popeyes. So,
We'll do that.
yes.
I don't. He also complained about the orientation of the building and used some colorful language, and I explained that we don't control Saginaw Boulevard, it's a state highway. And he was just very upset with me. But it is what it is. We do what we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
We
keep
talked
going.
about wanting an HEB and a Brahms, but we also need to take care of our current businesses here in Saginaw, because if we don't take care of those who are here, we're not going to be able to track any of those. So that's our retention and workforce program. So retention, that's going to be Susie's responsibility in the Economic Development Department. So we're going to do monthly visits to those, and we're going to talk about the economic development programs. One great example is we went to go to Miller Milling. We went during their opening. That counts as a visit. We know Eric, great relationship with him. We also went to Shoppa's as well last month. Shoppa's was very excited. They actually wanted to bring Mr. Shoppa's, which I didn't know the business was named after a person's family name. They did not know about the building improvement grant, so we taught them about that. So we're going to try to visit 2 large businesses and 1 small business. We also visit Athenium Cider as well last month. So now we're in May. We're going to be continuing on that as well. With that as well, May 15th, I will just put that on your calendar. Since I'm new in the position, so is Susie, we're going to have a meet and greet with the businesses in Saginaw at Athenium Cider. And on May 22nd is our local business forum at 8 a.m. at the Rec Center. I'm going to be sending out an email to council, and then we're going to be updating the website for those as well. If you would like to go to one of those meet and greets, we'll definitely, meet and greets with the visits, we could definitely coordinate that. We could coordinate some tours of other industries like Holy Guacamole, Miller Milling, so on and so forth. So our workforce, that's a very important key as well, because 11,000 boomers graduate, retire a week. So that is our doctors, that's our welders, that is our street folks, that is everybody who is working somewhere in this area, in this country, that is retiring. We don't have enough people to take their place. So workforce is very important. When a company comes and looks at site plans and site visits, the first thing is they ask is like, is there gonna be enough employees to fulfill what I need? Some of these companies need 800 employees, 500, 100, or even 50 employees, but if they don't have that, they're not gonna pick this area. So we have to be looking at our K through continuing education program. So we have to have a relationship with our TCC, our universities, with EMSISD, their ACTC program, just to make sure, hey, this trailer company needs welders. What are we doing in the schools to prepare welders so they could go into the workforce? So we're potentially looking at maybe apprenticeships, internships, or even just continuing education for those current employees there as well. So the Chamber of Commerce, so we are part of the North Tarrant Chamber, originally called the Northeast Tarrant Chamber, but since we joined, they changed the name. So some of the programs they have is every first and third Friday of the month at Eagles Point, we have Synergy Saginaw. They also have monthly programs. And I would like to also introduce the idea of destination marketing. I believe we talked about it briefly in the last meeting. 3 council members attended that meeting with the chamber, and I believe we will be bringing that to council as a workshop item and continuing on. So the DMO is essentially a Visit North Tarrant program. It's a tourism, because tourism is very important. One, because it's money that's being spent here in the city, but people get to go back to their homes. And 9 million people visit the Stockyards a year, and that is about 5 miles away from Saginaw. We have Billy Bob's right down the street, so Saginaw is in a prime spot to attract even 0.5% of those people to come to our place. Hometown Heroes Lunch, we want to be able to, I apologize, I lost my train of thought there. Hometown Hero Lunch, that is on May 15th at 11 a.m. That is a chamber event that's going to recognize our heroes in the city. We are going to recognize one of our residents here in the city who helps out a lot financially and as a volunteer. It's Brian from Taco Casa, so we're going to recognize him at that lunch.
here,
If you
here.
would like to attend that lunch, please send me an email. I'm going to send an email out as well, just to let y'all know. It's going to be May 15th at 11 a.m. in Keller. Any questions on the chamber? I was unable to get the memberships numbers, but I will definitely send those out as soon as I get those. All right, so our current programs that we are currently advocating at the moment is Building Improvement Grant. In your executive session, we actually have Building Improvement Grant application. Our local business forum, which is quarterly. It's a one Thursday quarterly, where we invite all the local businesses, and we have a good turnout, the last few of them. A business retention and expansion program, those are our current programs that we have. I do know we have a local shop Saginaw. We also have a business beautification recognition. Those are programs that are not really seeing much traction. We're definitely going to be revamping those pretty soon. In the future, so in your agenda, and I believe it's the next item or 2 items from now, I'm going to be requesting your approval on the survey. I definitely need a baseline. We've never had a business survey, but I'm going to save that information for later. So programs, we want to review all the programs that we're currently offering. We want to look into some small businesses programming to support our local small businesses, so like our little Etsy stores, entrepreneurs, our farmers market folks. We also want to do a business appreciation and dinner awards. Well, we have a lot of businesses in Saginaw that not only sponsor our events but volunteer. We just recently had the spring dance at the senior center, and we had folks from our milling companies come out and volunteer. Mary was there. I don't know if she got a chance to dance with one of those employees or not, but we want to recognize them because they're putting in a lot of work and a lot of sponsorship with our. And a lot of sponsorship with our events. Incubation, it's something very much distant future. We want to be able to help our small businesses expand. We want to let them grow. And the goal is to kick them out of that incubation because we want them to grow. And if they grow, then they have to leave. Again, this is definitely very much future. But what are our next steps? So our economic development website, we're updating that. We want to be able to have our available land that's on there. That's not currently on there in what the industry is calling for. The industry is calling for a map that you can move around and zoom in, zoom out with the contact information. And contact information for real estate folks change every single day. You just never know what's going on. So we're looking at definitely revamping our application process as well. And the use of technology, our website, we want to be able to use retail coaches' cell phone data as well to be able to determine where things are happening, where people gather in the city. And we also, I sent this out, this was our strategic plan that was created in 2016. We definitely would like to review that and maybe sit down with y'all and maybe have a weekend workshop, or if we want a third party to come out and redo this is definitely something we could definitely visit in the future. The reason why it has been done in 2016, I was a senior in college. There's a lot of things that have happened since then. COVID has happened. That was the big thing that hit a lot of industries as well. Let's see what else happened. If I was balding, I would say I had hair, but I'm not. I'm getting there. Not there yet.
In 2016, we didn't even have a full-time economic development director.
We did not, and
Right.
I believe a few of y'all were not on the council either as well.
I think what you recommended would be great to have that a weekend thing to go over this, review.
Yeah, definitely. I would say reading this over, I believe no residents were asked to input information on this. That's definitely a component we could look at into the future. But again, this is just an idea. This is just an update of the department. We could definitely tackle that in the next update.
How do we make that happen?
If we're going to do a third party, which I would recommend, it would have to go through the budget process.
Well, I'd rather just you do it.
Just me do it? Okay, well, we could definitely look into that.
All of us could review it to have I've read through it already. I've read it. I mean,
Yeah.
I can, give me till Monday, I can give you a whole markup if you
I
want.
could bring some options at a later meeting so we could see how we could tackle it.
But I'd really be interested in our new economic development director to review it and
Yeah.
give his recommendations too, so.
Yeah, I will come up with options and come back at another
So
meeting.
why couldn't we, you threw it out there, so I'm taking it and driving. Why
yeah,
can't we
my-
have a Saturday where we all have a review plan, and the end of that Saturday, we've got our new updated economic strategic plan.
Yeah, as long as there's food too.
Why do
I
we,
mean,
why do we do it on Saturday? Why can't we do it at a council meeting? Why do we have to kill a Saturday? Why don't we do it on a normal council meeting? We do it at a workshop.
We can do a workshop, as long as everybody doesn't get upset.
No, we do, if we have to do multiple workshops, we do multiple workshops. That we can do it normal council time, people could be here, people know, Tuesdays, first, third
I
Tuesday, we
have
do our
no-
business, so.
I'm fine either way, but I think we need to go through it. I got no problem investing a Saturday, or any afternoon, to do this, because I think the strategic plan, development plan for the city, I think, is extremely important.
Yeah, I definitely, in my position, I would definitely bring options to y'all. I would be very honest, and I'm very fresh to my role, so I'm not the be-all expert. So I definitely would like to bring someone, maybe to help us out in this process. A third party is also very good to bring, because I'm not gonna lie, we're all biased for some reason. For some reason, we want that HEB, we want that Brahms. So we're gonna try to answer those questions and review it by Taylor typing that. So having maybe a third party will help us out. But again, I'll bring options at another meeting. Maybe come out with the schedule for option 1, option 2. Communications, community engagement. We're going to talk about communication, outreach, public art, and special events. This is going to be pretty brief. So we have a designated communication specialist, as you met her today. We have done monthly newsletters via email with our utility billing. Our quarterly mail newsletter is a pilot program. We're still fixing some little bugs on there, but I think it's very receptive. Many people like it. It's a pilot program. It's quarterly. Garage Gabs are great. We actually have one in a couple weeks. We are definitely going to be pushing more community meetings and town halls and brand management. As you can tell, we have a logo. We definitely want to protect the logo, make sure it's not on being misused. Public art, this is one of those items that's going to be freshly new. We want to bring back that photo contest that we used to have. We want to make sure our public art system is very well. We want to make sure our art on, what's it called? JR's Cafe. We want to make sure it's up to date. We want to make sure it's fine. We want to be able to do that mostly with grant funding, and with some grants, we need to have an arts commission or an arts board in order to move that. So if it's a pleasure of the council, if we would like to create one, we could definitely discuss it at a later time.
How would that tie into the Keep Saginaw Beautiful Committee? Because that's kind of what.
It'd be separate.
It'll be separate,
It needs
yeah.
to be a separate entity, which is common in many cities.
Yeah, Fort Worth has one. Fort Worth, Keller, they're the two that we saw that we like how they established it.
So then, if this committee came up with something, then, because I could see art commission boards, things like that, that's, to me, a kind of a beautification, then they would go to the Keep Saginaw Beautiful Committee and ask them.
No, it will be its own separate entity. So when we look at the art commission, it's not just public art. We're looking at also, they will be our go-to for special events performances. So our dance, theater, anything of that nature. So when I mean art, I mean interpretive of everything, not just the art piece that we are looking at. All right, and special events, we're just gonna go over these really briefly. Our flagships are 3 of them, our Independence Celebration, which will be on June 28th, Training Green Festival, which is October 11th, our holiday event, December 6th. And our community events, that's our big volunteer event, our trunk or treat, those are our smaller Make Saginaw, small town feel events. We definitely want to add some more. And as we slowly transition special events outside of my department, we're definitely going to work with Randy and his team to add some more. We definitely want to bring back our Sweetheart Dance. I think it's called the Daddy-Daughter Dance. And something that we're going to steal from another city is a mom and son Nerf gun combat. It's very popular in other cities, so we definitely want to keep that. We definitely want to steal that.
We do they do the music in the parks.
Yes, so just because I didn't want to add 2 slides of special events, we definitely have more events.
To take some of the pressure off of the staff, would the Arts Commission or Arts Board that you're talking about also participate in these events as well?
I believe it's the way the council would like to outline their ordinance. I believe you could add that as well, but it's the will of the council. That's a good idea. And with that, I'm open up for questions. And that's actually one of our public art pieces.
I like it.
To get back to it, how do we, I'm gonna give up on this. Either have multiple sessions where we block time off during our regular session to go through this, or have a Saturday retreat?
So yeah, we could do a Saturday retreat, or how Kim does our workshop for budget. We could do that multi-city council meetings.
So
But
can
I could
you-
bring back some options for
Can you-
y'all.
How long will it take you to get us back with some options?
Next council meeting.
Okay.
Or if, actually, next council meeting might be out. So June. I just thought about it,
The
May 20th.
non-next special council meeting.
Not next special council meeting. I was talking about May 20th.
The 20th.
Next regular session, but I believe I'll be out the 20th.
Last?
I'm sorry?
What is the length of one of these workshops? We're talking
That-
4 hours?
We could break it up by topic, but I think it's just going to be,
If we were to have it on one day, about how long would?
we could refresh back to when we have our budget retreat. Maybe, I believe we start at 9 and we usually finish like at 2 or 3. I can't really put a number on it just because we could go on tangents and talk about specific items.
I'd also like to say that I really appreciate this and everything you've done. It's getting out there. You're starting off hot, not like
Well, thank you. You don't see me running around going crazy, but thank you.
All right. Anything
You don't
else
see
for
the
Pedro?
behind the scenes.
Anything else for Pedro?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, moving on, 4A, consider action regarding enterprise resource planning system. Finance Director Kim Quinn.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. The City of Saginaw has used the current ERP system for more than 30 years, I think 34 to be exact. And we have been informed that our time with STW is near an end. We're going to have to make a decision before December of we'll have to be converted before December of 2026. So knowing that that change was coming, we created a committee. The committee consisted of myself, the Director of Human Resources, Finance Manager, IT Director, and Utility Billing Supervisor to evaluate proposals and what our options are. We unanimously decided, the committee unanimously decided to go and to recommend Oracle NetSuite. And so that is what's before you tonight. We also have a representative from Oracle, Tom Hackett. If you have questions, happy to answer them. That's the recommendation.
Our council questions for Kim or our representative from Oracle? If no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve 4A as presented.
I'll second.
Valerie, second.
What's happening?
Please cast your votes.
Paul left. He'll be right back.
Oh, I didn't even see him leave. Okay. Do we need to wait on Paul?
Go holler in the hallway. What are you voting?
I gotta.
I was just kidding, Vicki. Calm down.
He snuck out. I didn't see him go.
Oh, you were looking that way.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Motion passes. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, committee. I appreciate the hard work. Excellent. Let's move forward with that. 4B, consideration action regarding 2025 business survey. Back to Pedro.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Act 2 of my stand-up routine here. This is the business survey that I discussed briefly in my presentation. On Point Insights, we have a contract with them, and this is our second survey in the contract. We are pursuing a business survey because one has not been done in the city before. So I believe Council requested this to come forward during the budget process. Y'all approved it during the budget season for the money to be allocated, and the amount is $10,500, and it's been approved in current budget, and it's coming out of that account in the memo. And with that, I have any questions?
Any questions for Pedro on the business survey? If no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the business survey as presented.
Okay, have a second? Paul, second? All right, motion passes. Excellent. Thank you, Pedro. 4C, consider action regarding retail retention, recruitment, and development service proposal with the retail coach. Pedro Zambrano.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Once again, I am back at the podium. In the 2016 Economic Development Strategic Plan, we discussed hiring a business or hiring a consultant. That consultant that we picked was the retail coach. Their contract is up and ready to be renewed. They have represented us at conferences, specifically ICSC and Retail Live down in Austin. And soon, in a couple weeks, they'll be representing us in Vegas. One example of a business that they brought is actually one of your future items. 4D is the bid to our retired fire station. I got to use that term because I'm stealing that from the Chief Spears. I like that, retired fire station. And they also, we have bi-weekly meetings with them, and we talk about potential businesses, one of them being the one we discussed earlier. I did put them in the air to see if they could figure out something with HEV, but we're still working on that angle. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Question for Pedro about the retail coach.
I apologize. Their fee is in the budget.
Yeah. Did we started using them in 2020? That's when we first started? I guess I thought it'd been longer than that, but.
No, 5 years.
I believe so.
I thought it'd been longer than that. It feels like longer, but I don't, okay. We have history with retail coach. How about that?
Yes, we do. I would say they will be coming at the June meeting to give an update.
Right, I heard that they could not make this meeting, but they will make a future one. Excellent. Questions for Pedro?
Comment, I'm happy to see that you're doing it bi-weekly with them, because I think we were doing it monthly before, and I think having more engagement with them is helping move things along a little bit.
Excellent. I'm pleased, when we first started meeting with them, they would give us a lot of metadata that we did not have before. The cell phone data, all the tracking data they do. People coming, businesses coming to the area want that kind of data. They really like to see that, and Retail Coach provides that for us without us having to do it ourselves. So it's one of the great things they do provide.
Yeah, very correct. And one thing I did not mention in my presentation is, I believe, the mention of a hotel coming to Saginaw. We reached out to Retail Coach and let them know about the situation. They told us this is exactly what the steps we have to take in order to achieve that. So we're already working on that as well, which I'll bring at a future council meeting.
Okay. Other questions for Pedro on Retail Coach? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve item 4C, renewing the contract with Retail Coach.
Nick, second? Okay. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. Don't leave. I moved one, remember?
Oh, you moved on,
Yes.
okay.
All right, thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, and thank you, Pedro. Excellent work. All right, we're going to go back up to 3B. I moved it here, so we will do 3B now. Discussion regarding warehouse development on Spring Hollow. Dr. Nguyen, you have the floor, sir. Oh, Spring Hollow Drive. Sorry, I gave you credit, but Mr. Nguyen.
I would love to be a doctor, but I'm not, but thank you.
Welcome either way.
I'll try not to be grumpy. Good evening, council members, and anybody's left that's in my residential area. I'd like to take this opportunity to reiterate some of the concerns that we had about the current location of the entrance to our community from the distribution center, and see what we can do about moving it from where it's actually planned right now. And I just want to reiterate so that we don't lose sight and focus of it. But first, I'd like to say thank you to the council member for putting us on the agenda tonight, and also to the Falcon Construction for having the meeting with our HOA members last week or the several weeks before to discuss and come up with some solutions to our issue. With that being said, the residents of our community are still concerned about the entrance being, where the entrance is being placed on our street to our neighborhood. And we hope that the city and the developer are using all of the resources that are available to them to make sure that when the construction does reach the phase where the entrance will be placed, that it will be placed somewhere else. We still want the entrance to be moved because we're still concerned about the negative effects that it will have on our community, especially about the potential of the dangerous situations where a semi-truck could be pulling a freight and get stuck and block up the entrance. And not amongst other things like maybe potentially crashing into a car and other stuff like that. We're also still concerned about the children that are the potential of dangerous situations where kids waiting for the bus early in the morning, especially during the wintertime when the sun rises later than usual and it's still dark outside. Also, it might be too late to change, to stop the construction of the building coming up, but the construction owner did say previously in one of the meetings that if he would have known about all the pushback, he probably wouldn't have bought the land. So do we as a city have a mechanism to where we notify the residents of what's going to happen so that if this does come up again, that we can vote on it or voice our concerns so that our voices are heard? And that's all I have. Thank you.
I think the answer to that question is yes. We have that notice should have gone out at least at some point.
So, Mayor, the property was already zoned, so when a property is zoned for a use, then the property owner has the right to develop that. So when it was rezoned 20-some years ago, there would have been a notification at that time.
20 years ago?
That's when the property was zoned to its light industrial use.
Oh.
You know, Trent, I think it was 2003.
The email Susie sent out said it was November 24th, 2003.
Yeah.
All right, are you done? Anything else, sir?
No, that's it.
Okay. I know there was a meeting with several residents and also staff and the developer last week, and I think Lee, our assistant city manager, give sort of an update, a recap of that meeting, and several council members were there as well.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, on April 24th here at City Hall, there was a meeting attended by 3 council members, a number of staff, and a number of citizens. The citizens obviously voiced the concerns, some of which have been revoiced tonight, regarding the Falcon Warehouse project. I'll try to briefly synopsize those. There was a number of concerns, but it started with just the mere existence of the Falcon project, some zoning issues surrounding that. A number of the issues came back to safety regarding increased traffic congestion on McElroy, entrance and egress from the neighborhood, truck traffic potentially entering the neighborhood beyond the proposed Falcon project entrance and making it unsafe condition traversing through the neighborhood to get back out. So there was a number of suggestions that were discussed. One of those was to move the Falcon entrance from its proposed location just inside Spring Hollow from north of McElroy to possibly the location where the temporary entrance is being used now on private property adjacent to it. The developers actually pledged to follow up on that with a discussion with the property owner to enter into some negotiation regarding a permanent entrance in that location. There was also suggestions made about seeking a railroad crossing off of either Burlington or Minton. And Councilman Fleege has personally followed up on that and gotten a response from a BNSF official. one of the most, I think, one of the most viable and safety-conscious suggestions that was discussed was constructing a traffic signal at either Spring Hollow and McElroy or Spring Hollow and Creek Terrace. I'm sorry, Creek Terrace and McElroy. So that would offer better controlled access and egress to the neighborhood and help control traffic jams along McElroy. The developer also offered to build a covered waiting area off of Spring Hollow, just north of McElroy and north of the proposed Falcon entrance, which would be could be utilized as a school bus stop to make it safer for kids in the neighborhood. Fire Marshal Cook is following up with EMSID about that location to see if it's okayed by them. Trenton Tidwell, city engineer, offered up the idea of a monument sign being erected just inside the Spring Hollow entrance there, which would clearly delineate the beginning of the neighborhood and direct traffic with signage into the Falcon, the proposed Falcon entrance, which should significantly cut down on any errant traffic, truck traffic through the neighborhood. So that's kind of the status of it in a nutshell. Our staff is currently gathering some more information, and the intent is, once that is gathered, that we'll call another meeting with staff in the neighborhood and the council members that were present and continue that discussion.
How soon is that going to happen? Do we have an idea?
I think there's still a few details and data to gather. It very well could happen in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. That. All right, Council, any questions for Chief or any of the folks that were there? Any input? Any other feedback? Paul, Brax, any of y'all were there? Anything you want to add to what Lee said?
Yeah, I want to commend the staff and especially the citizens and the developers as well. It was a little tense at first, but once we sat down and outlined all of the issues and we started finding solutions, for those individual issues, I think we made a step in the right direction. I also believe that there's a lot more work that needs to be done beyond what we just came up with at that initial meeting. I was impressed at everybody's participation, especially toward the end. Like I said, it was a little tense at first, but it definitely calmed down, and we were able to come up with some solutions that satisfied everyone.
Bragg, Mayor Pro Tem, good. Okay. I have three folks that want to speak on this issue, and we'll go through those now. So Nathan Goldberg.
Thank you for allowing us to speak again. I know it takes up a lot of time. I just want to say, and no fault of your own, Mayor, I understand why you pushed it back, but that's kind of how the neighborhood feels about the city dealing with this development. We feel like we're kind of being pushed onto the back burner. I know several years ago when this first development came to my attention, I emailed the city and asked them to not allow it. At that point, I was told it was kind of too late. At that point, my argument became, again, to move the entrance, in which I was told that that community property is what they can use it for whatever they want, right? I was also under the understanding that this was a voted on deal at a city council meeting. We were not aware of it, obviously. We did come out to one where we voted on them building a fence or not, which they have to build that fence. We have asked for the video of that city council meeting to be released to us so we could see what was presented during that vote, because Gabe has told me on numerous occasions that both properties were zoned light industrial, and I presented to him that they were not light industrial. So if a vote was made on that pretense that both of those properties were light industrial, it was made under false pretense. So I would love to see the information that was presented at that meeting, right? You know, mistakes are made, but now it's at our cost, right? Our property values are again suffering. They might have dropped again. And I have one of the best views in the neighborhood with the pond behind me and, you know, mostly trees, right? I don't face the warehouse. My front of my house does. But, you know, again, my house is suffering and I'm not gonna be able to sell it for what I owe on it. I'm almost at the point of what I owe right now within about $40,000 of it. If I lose any more, I'll be forced to sell before I have to pay to get out of the house, right? So with that being said, you know, we're simply asking that the forethought should have taken place. 5 years ago, that development was supposed to be fed from a road that was coming from Bailey Boswell, right? That developer that owned some of the property that road was gonna be built on ended up developing houses out further than intended, which shut that road down. Where was the forethought that development was gonna be fed from there? Because that development was supposed to have a road that comes on it. It was on the 5 years ago, I believe Trenton attested to it. So where was the forethought of what the impact was gonna be to our housing development when that took place, right? At that point, the city probably should have pushed to rezone that light industrial area away from it or acquired it and created the city park that they want to, or right now. My recommendation right now would be to push that developer to create a city rec center out of that area, right? That would be much better suited and probably better for our property value. Would we still want the traffic? No, but it's gonna be 18-wheeler traffic, right? And that property and the building, he can still build that building to the size he wants. And I guarantee you're gonna see more money out of the city rec center than you're gonna see out of the property taxes that way. Right? So that's kind of where I would push the developer, right? At that point, the entrance is still on Spring Hollow. We're not seeing 18-wheeler traffic. We're seeing regular vehicle traffic, which is a lot more pleasant to the eye. Gonna probably increase our property values because we're gonna have the rec center within walking distance for the people who have kids, right? Our neighborhood does not have a community pool, so a rec center might add that to it, right? Again, you're feeding the city's economic development, which is what Pedro's job is to do. So, you know, that's where we're asking, where was the forethought? And I'm asking for homework to be done on your guys' behalf, right? Only reason why is because I also brought up that you can be landlocked in the state of Texas, right? And I was told you can't. If you Google it, the first thing that comes up about being landlocked is yes, you can. You have to, at that point, you have to negotiate a right of way, right? That, even though they own both properties, one property is there to buffer our community from that development. And it's not being used for that. I mean, I'm gonna keep arguing it because that's what I do. I've took it up much like you guys do to protect and defend against foreign and domestic, right? Right now, I'm in a domestic battle. So that's where I'm gonna come from. I'm gonna keep bringing the fight until I see a result that the entire neighborhood's happy with. I'm not just doing this for me. If it was for me, I'd sell my house and move somewhere else, right? I'm doing it for my entire neighborhood and the fact that I like where I live. I love my neighbors. So, you know, that's where I'm coming to you with this. I'm asking you guys to do the homework to see why it got approved that way. You know, if in fact you can't be landlocked, he landlocked himself. When that development lost the road from Bailey Boswell, he is now landlocked by that community commercial property, right? And you say that legally it's about uses, right? Well, that property is not being used for community commercial. It's being used for light industrial, right? And you can argue it till you're blue in the face. I'll be glad to argue with him in court over it. I guarantee you, I'm gonna get the jury to file in my defense on it, right? The use of that property is for 18-wheeler traffic, right? Which in the codes says truck freight or heavy freight, right? Cannot be used for that purpose. That is that use of that property now. It cannot be used for community commercial with how they're using it. So with that, I mean, it'd be on you guys to push the developer and say, look, we screwed up. You know, we didn't plan on this, right? But somebody pushed it through somehow, and, you know, that's why I'm asking for the homework. You know, for one, I want to see the video. Everybody wants to see it, where it was voted on and what was presented, right? If in fact it was presented with a map that shows both light industrial, then it was under false pretense, because Gabe argued with me the last time we were here. Before we had our last meeting, Gabe came to me aside when you guys went to executive session and told me that those were both light industrial. I then went and looked up the map and showed him, right, that they were not light industrial.
Mr. Goldberg, Mayor and Council, out of all due respect, please, I don't mean to be in any way confrontational. I do want to correct the record. We sent you a zoning verification letter that very clearly, it was reviewed by the city attorney, explained the situation. You have consistently contended that it is not allowable to access where the drive is located now.
It is not.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with
It says not allowed on residential road.
Right.
Says
What
Spring
we have
Hollow
told-
is a residential road owned by the city.
Again, I never told you what you have stated. I want that in the record.
Do I have a witness? I
And,
have several witnesses.
okay, well, I don't
We
want to
can
be,
argue that fact.
there's no need to argue. What I'm telling you is consistent with what has been shared.
Well, I'm telling you what your consistency is about as low as my boot.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, thank you, Mr. Goldberg. I've got other folks. I appreciate it.
So I got two things. So one, the video that he's talking about, if we had got it, we've got it now, so.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not clear. There was not any meeting on this case. There would have been a public meeting to rezone it back in 2003. There was a Board of Adjustment meeting related to the extension of the fence, but there was no other meeting related to the property.
There was something.
When was the
here.
plat approved?
Yeah, so wherever here, I'll make the request. Any meeting, either in council or any committee I request that video. Or if it wasn't videoed, I request the documentation.
Sure. I think the resident requested when the plat was approved. I don't disagree. A plat is what's called and I defer to the city attorney, a plat is a ministerial function. City council or city staff has no involvement over the approval of a plat. If it's submitted and it meets, then it is approved. If I explain that correctly, Mr. Meredith?
Yeah, that's correct. The only discretion is with the zoning, and the discretion was exercised in 2003 for whatever reason to rezone the property.
Right, but thank you. I want to thank you. We can look and find when the plat was approved.
But we did talk about something here. It's been too long. The plat approval, so let's give it to them. They can watch it and they can see what it is.
Absolutely. We'll have a record.
And if the P and Z talked about it and it was taped, let's send them that too.
I'd also have a request to speak from Mr. Jesus.
But no,
Reyes.
I had one more to Brent, exactly. So Brent, there's a lot of back and forth here between Gabe and him on it. And I remember, so Gabe's not an expert on this stuff, but you are the one who at the meeting we talked about this explained exactly what we could and could not do and what they could and could not use between these two pieces of property. So can you spend like a minute to restate exactly what the law states and what we have to follow?
Sure, no part of the actual land use activity can take place on the community commercial, but the use of that community commercial for a driveway only does not violate the zoning ordinance.
All right, so Mr. Jesus Reyes, put in a request, please.
Yes, good evening, council and fellow residents. This is my first time here, but just a really brief history. I purchased my house as one of the new elements of the development off of Spring Creek Boulevard back in 2018. Me and my wife were expecting our first child. Unfortunately, she passed during COVID in 2020, so it's been a bit of a struggle trying to maintain everything and working out in Dallas. Unfortunately, I was let go from my position last November, and I'm still maintaining, and I'm actually improving myself. But in the meantime, that gives me a little bit of free time to look at this. I am on the other side of the neighborhood, and even my residence has lost value. I was sitting at a value of about $438,000. It has dropped to $322,000. That is over a $100,000 value in drop in an area that is not even dealt with any of the runoff. I'm not near the creek. I'm on the catty corner of the other side of the neighborhood, but because our neighborhood only has two entrances, that being Spring Creek and Spring Hollow, we are a landlocked community. And on a normal, everyday afternoon, when those trains come through at a very situational time, the traffic will back up all the way to Blue Mound Road, and none of us can leave our neighborhood, none of us can get into our neighborhood. Imagine a situation where a trailer hits a child. How are we going to get there? How are you going to deal with it? Because we will have everybody's names down for future reference when we are dealing with a situation in the future. I'm not saying that the owner or the landlord, whoever owns that property, shouldn't be allowed to make some profit. Obviously, they purchased their property before any of us were even owning a home on that property. They should be allowed for the opportunity to make a profit. However, we are a residential neighborhood. We have children on any given holiday. Halloween is a big one. You can see children running up and down. When other neighborhoods have shut down because of all of the situations behind COVID, because of all the fears that are running through the neighborhoods, our community stays strong. We have a strong neighborhood family element in our community. On top of that, our playground, our one and only vestige of recreation, is located on Spring Hollow at the very end of the court. When I take my 6-year-old down to the park to play, and if you have a child aged 4 through 8, you know how rambunctious they can get. He has on occasion run down that neighborhood, down that street to where that construction is happening. I'm a larger fellow. I'm older, over the age of 40. I have difficulty keeping up with my 6-year-old. I'm doing my best to train him and teach him the best I can, but we are almost 400 residents also dealing with the same situation. We are concerned about our neighbors, we're concerned about our children, and I guarantee you that if this goes through, we will do everything we can to impede any of the business that developer stands to do. All we have to do is walk around on public ground and stand in the way of that traffic. Now, I highly suggest that you look at alternatives and you look and you do a real traffic survey, because whatever that report said is bogus. Having lived there for 5 years, having worked from home for 2, I understand that traffic is horrible. On top of which, we have a ton of vehicles that just park on the side of the streets. Whether or not that's allowed, that's irrelevant. I believe that's HOA, an issue with HOA to be developed. However, our streets are narrow, and if you put any sort of traffic light or you cause further traffic, I have seen vehicles traveling more than the recommended 20 miles an hour around our neighborhood, which is, again, very limited. I can imagine not just the truck drivers, but the other traffic drivers having issues in trying to break through our neighborhood. So there are a whole lot of other situations beyond what that business is trying to implement. I rather like the idea of repositioning towards recreation because that would improve value. However, I understand it's a difficult situation. I'm hoping that we can move forward and look at other solutions because I'm just not seeing that that's going to be a very beneficial commercial opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cesar Guerrero.
Is it okay to hand each member my tab?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
This is my house at 284 Spring Hollow Drive. This is the tab adjustment to my market value of the home. If you see the dates, May 1st, I believe. My market value has gone from $356,105 to $295,000. That's over $61,000. That doesn't account for, she said,
if you can prove that 18-wheelers are going through your property, through your roadway, come back, and we'll further drop the price. So I'm looking at potentially, I'm thinking at least 80,000, right? This gentleman, he said over 100,000. So at 218 homes times at least 60,000, we're looking at over $13 million in loss. That doesn't account for further depreciation for homes that are better than mine, which is great. Now we're looking at maybe closer to 20 million. When we had the meeting, and I'm grateful for the meeting, but personally, that meeting didn't really go anywhere. And if you ask the members, the people that actually live there, we don't feel like it went anywhere. It didn't feel like the builder was trying to do anything. I asked him, because we had the meeting a week and a half before, right? I asked him, did you call BNSF? No. And then some city person saying, it's impossible, they won't do it, okay? And that was hearsay. They said, I heard from this person and that person, blah. There was no proof that BNSF would say no anyway. But a city person decided that, hey, we're gonna go ahead and shut this down ourselves. That makes no sense to me. Why would you say something that you don't know about? All you had is hearsay, and I heard from this person, and that person said that too. That's ridiculous to me, that a city person would say that. Why would you say that if there's no proof of it? One, okay? And then the second thing, I'm sorry, I'm getting upset, so I'm losing my train of thought. The second thing was, I asked him, did you contact the business owner who's allowing you the use of the driveway? Because he said the guy was really friendly and just cooperative. Did you call that guy? No. And then he had kind of a flushed look. I said, so what are we doing? Why are we, to me it made no sense. Why are we even here? You said, when he came up here at that meeting, one of the first things, if you review the video, so you know that I'm not lying, is that he said, I'm gonna reach out to that owner and see if I can move my roadway to what he's already using. He said that. But did he do it? No, there was no follow through. And yet, thankfully, Cindy, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Cindy Bighorse, she spoke up and it's like, why don't you call him? And he had nothing to say. So there's no pressure. It feels like nothing's happening. No one's doing, we're spinning our wheels. I appreciate the things that the city came up for. Okay, well, not only that, I wanted to start with the mayor. I appreciate you having this organized for us, although it didn't go anywhere, right? According to me anyway. You had stated 3 people from the city, 3 people, from the builder, 3 people from someone else with the council, and then maybe 2 or 3 from the neighborhood. That would have totaled 12 people. We walked in the room, I couldn't even sit at the table because there was over 25 people there. Do you know the number of people that were there, Brack? No. Was there over 20 people, would you say? Yeah. At least 20. There was 20 at least. And I was like, I thought we were gonna have maybe 12 people or less, 9 to 12 people. But we got 20 people, and it's only 3 of us, so we've got 3 people representing our interests, and it seemed like everyone else representing, well, except for a couple of exceptions, representing the builder and no, no, no. It's the same thing as we had before. It was a no, it was a no, it was a no. And the city representatives, most of them were making solutions that we didn't. Okay, great, give us a light. Well, how's that light, those 2 lights, gonna help me get to my neighborhood if I'm coming from, because everybody travels, that nobody wants to come in from Maine, because you got those railroad tracks. So everybody's said, my family, my wife, my son, we all take Blue Mound Road wherever we go because it's almost impossible the other way. So when I come home, when I'm coming home from work, okay, and it's a busy day, and it's blocked from our main street and then our other street, and I've got no way to come in from Blue Mound westbound. I've got nowhere to come in. How is a light going to help me get to my neighborhood? It's not. How am I supposed to, so do I go on to oncoming traffic to get home? I don't understand what is that solution bringing to us to get home? It's not bringing us a solution at all. I don't understand. And then him building a pavilion or whatever, a cover for our kids, and then he proposed, putting another light where he can where it stops traffic and on our neighborhood. All these solutions for things that simply, if he would have made a phone call, a concerted phone call, like this, he did not have any interest, and I don't really know why he was even at the meeting. Truthfully, I appreciate that he was, but he was in no way caring to make things move forward. There was nothing. And it made me upset. He brought some young guy with slick hair, and talking about, like, how do you know that your home value is going to be affected by this property? There's other factors. Well, now I've got the proof, because that's all I presented. Was this commercial building, 300,000 square foot commercial building plus, with 100 plus 18-wheeler spaces. That's not gonna, anyway, that made me upset. But now I've got proof. Here's the proof in writing. Y'all welcome to keep it or give it back actually, if you do keep them, shred them if you don't mind. But anyway, my point is, like, this is proof that we're losing here, and we need help. We really need help, concerted help, not just a meeting that goes nowhere. All these solutions for things that doesn't really matter. Those solutions don't give me my $61,000 in depreciation plus, because there is going to be 18-wheelers coming out of there. Why wouldn't there be? Who's going to be renting that space without 300,000 square feet space? You're going to need something to really move product in and out of there. And it's not going to be a sedan, right? It's not going to be a smart car. It's going to be 18-wheelers. That's what it's going to be. And I don't know, Gabe, but I was sitting right there next to my friend Nathan, who's a combat veteran, and I love that he's on our team, because he just won't give up, and I appreciate that. We got some good people in our neighborhood. We've got some quality people, and we've got a great neighborhood, and this is starting to destroy our neighborhood. Everyone is on Facebook. I don't know why some people just aren't fighters, I guess, and I think you guys see that, I'm sure, throughout this whole thing. But there was an error made at some point in time. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to say. Gabe did say, and he said it 3 times, while I was sitting next to Nathan, that they were both zoned light industrial. I'm a Christian man. I was raised Christian. I'm not lying about that. So to that point, I told Nathan, pull it up on the city website. He pulled it up, went to executive session, came back out. He had sent it to Gabe, and Gabe said, well, it's already been approved. That was it. But he did say it 3 times, and that makes me upset. Was there some kind of misrepresentation? I don't know. If there wasn't, okay, that's fine. But who at any point didn't see this and say, wait, let's hold on this. Let's talk about this. Is there a point that someone said, let's wait and let's take a look at this? Look, it's going to affect these 218 residences, these citizens here. And there's not one person in this meeting, or that I guarantee you is going to be able to watch this and say, yeah, I would want 18-wheelers coming through my roadway. And I think that's probably good for me and my neighborhood. There's no one that's going to say that. And I don't understand why not one person with all, and I know there's extremely intelligent people here, not one person said, let's look at this. I don't understand that. Sorry, I think that's most of my points. I'm sorry for being long-winded.
All right, yeah, thank you, Mr.
This
Guerrero.
is quite upsetting.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Also have a request from Alexander Costet. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name correctly.
Thank you for your time again. I just wanted to speak about some things that we talked about during our session when we all met together. 2 traffic analyses were done.
Can you raise that up? I can't, I'm sorry, I can't.
Oh, you're fine.
Appreciate
Can you
it.
hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 traffic analyses were done, one in 2021 and the other one was in, okay. So both showing that in peak time from 7 a.m. to 7:45 a.m., 50 to 55 vehicles will come in and out, mainly 18-wheelers. That's a 45-minute window. Just to show you why we're so upset. That's a lot of vehicles. And then in peak times from 4:45 to 5:30 p.m., 61 vehicles will come in and out. So my question is, with the zoning, if it's community care, those vehicles cannot stand on that piece of land, right? So if there's an 18-wheeler waiting on that piece of land, they have to go through. They cannot just stand there, correct? Based on zoning?
I think that's
I don't know who I should ask, but.
That's a Bryn question, that's an attorney question, but yeah.
Sorry, could you repeat your question, sir?
So a lot of vehicles are going to come in and out, 18-wheelers mainly. It's zone community care. So those vehicles can only go through, they cannot wait sitting on the property, correct?
Well, I don't know that idling a truck violates zoning, but a loading and unloading, yes, that would violate the zoning.
Okay, so if 50 18-wheelers are trying to come in and out of there within 45 minutes, do you think those vehicles will be sitting there for too long to where that would be questionable?
Yeah, I guess it's based on the facts and circumstances. I mean,
So,
obviously, they can't block traffic if they're idling on their own private property driveway.
But would that be a zoning violation?
I don't believe it would if they're just idling. If they are loading and unloading and performing any industrial activities other than driving or idling or parking, then I think that's a problem.
So on your websites, it says that we cannot park any 18-wheelers on that piece of land based on the zoning. Just so you're aware of what's on your own website. There's a lot of research for us to do. That's not our job, but that's what we found. So my question is, if that happens in the future, what do we do as concerned citizen? What's our recourse?
So if there's a zoning violation, then a citation is issued.
Okay, so potentially 45 citations within 45 minutes. Do you think we can handle that?
That's a question for the police department.
I'm just trying to make sure things make sense. It's just so crazy to me.
Yeah, it's a.
We don't have the manpower to be able to sit there and cite 40, 45, multiple vehicles. That's just a waste of manpower. It's not gonna happen because there's other important things that we need to get to. That is not gonna be a priority.
I'd like Chief Ragsdale to address that, please.
Yeah, I can address that. I mean, the answer is no, I can't write 45 citations in a 45-minute period. Every citation takes roughly 7 minutes to write, so even if I put all staff available at the time on the street on that, you wouldn't write 45 citations in that time frame. So that would be the answer. I can't address 45 parking violations in a 45-minute time frame.
Thank
you. Brent, can you help me with what the issue is here? Is it, okay, so the truck comes in, he turns into interest, and he goes onto their property, right? Where's the violation and what's the violation?
So part of the property that the developer is
Okay,
using to get
gotcha.
in and out is zoned community care, right?
Right.
It says on the Saginaws website that the use that's permitted for that land is community care, which is against 18-wheelers or freight to station there.
Okay.
We've been told that they can use it as a driveway to get to their
That's
entrance. When I bought my house, I thought it was a buffer, but that's.
So if they
Right, so
started,
staging your vehicles and just leaving them there, that very well may be a violation.
that'd be,
I think telling them you can't park there, I don't think they're going to say, okay, we're going to sell the property. But I don't have an issue if the ordinance prohibits actually leaving the trucks on that property. And I'm happy to look at that specifically. I was really trying to address the concept of idling or driving through.
okay, yeah, could you look into that? Because my understanding with you is that piece of property is just a driveway. So that
Right.
means they can't be parking their vehicles, or they can't be using them as staging areas. That
Correct.
means they go to point A to point B, and they shouldn't, there's really even no reason for them to stop.
I don't know why they would have 45 vehicles parked there, and that's, left there as a parking lot. They can't build a parking lot out there and use
Right.
it as a commercial trucking parking lot. That would not be consistent, I agree.
Because it's a roadway, we can mark it no standing or no parking, correct?
Well, that's a private drive, isn't it, or are they
I'm
dedicating that?
talking about the section on Spring Hollow that they're concerned about. We just mark that no parking and no.
Oh,
standing.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm
even-
sorry, I was just addressing the private drive.
But even the private property that they're driving across, it's not zoned for them to have semi-truck
Storage,
parking.
correct.
Storage.
They cannot do heavy vehicle semi-storage, that's
So-
correct.
If I was a citizen there and I seen that they had 5 semi-trucks parked there, I'd
I
call
would
the
call-
non-emergency
absolutely.
number, I'd file a complaint.
Yep, agreed.
Either call, I don't know if it'd be, I guess it'd be you all, maybe
Yeah, if I can add a little bit more on that. So if we're talking about,
Yeah.
start a business or end a business, trucks are leaving, pulling in.
Yeah.
The fact that they're waiting in line to get to where they're going, that's not parked. I mean, they are idling, waiting to get to where they're going. They're not parking the vehicle with the intent of leaving it there for any length of time. They're trying
That's
to
right.
access a bay.
If they're suggesting that they want to use that as a parking lot, and I haven't heard that, then I'm in complete agreement with you. That's not.
And that's not what I was saying. I was just asking if the vehicle has to wait there, because per the traffic survey, both of them that were done, 50 vehicles will be going in and out there, maybe
And-
18 wheels within 45 minutes. There is no way, I promise you, if you go there, that they will just go in and out. Trains,
Well, I mean,
McElroy,
that's-
there's no way.
even if they're on that property, because actually, I'm not a truck driver, but I grew up on a farm and we had semi-trucks. And you don't just shut them off. I mean, if they pull them up there and they say got 3 deep and they're idling, then my definition is that's parked. And so that'd be a violation. Again, to me, my simplest is point A to point B. They can drive across that property, but there's no reason for them to be stopping, pulling off to the side. They get onto the property they have to where they're gonna load and unload. Once they get onto that property, they can park and wait and stuff, but they can't in that piece of property we're talking about, right?
That I'd have to look at. I mean,
Can you please look at that and let us know?
I certainly will. It would have to prohibit idling.
But the problem, I think, comes, it's gonna be a catch-22, because if we don't allow them to idle there or gather there while they wait for their bay, they're gonna be backed up on Blue Mound Road, creating a congestion nightmare. So, I
They got
mean-
all that other property that they got that they're building their site on, that they have to make sure that they got enough space and things on that property to store for that staging. If they're gonna have 50 truck stage, and they have to have enough space on that property that's zoned for that to account for them semi-trucks.
Do you remember how many spaces they have for trucks?
I think 100 or so
I
from
was
the
thought
top
about
of my head,
108
yes.
is what I
68
remember.
doors and 100 places for just trucks and more for cars.
But I just don't want trucks parking on that commercial property, but I don't want trucks backed up on Blue Mound either.
Well, yes, and that's where I'm leading my whole speech is, how did that get approved? And can we get record of when it got approved? Was it presented to y'all city council members? What happened? How did the whole project get approved based on 2 surveys?
I personally requested that.
I just wanted to enforce
Any
the plan.
documentation and video, so you'll get what we got, right, Gabe?
So
Mi-
we'll
Mr.
get
Mayor,
answers on
also,
that.
if I can
Thank you.
add.
Yes, sir.
We're approaching harvest season, so I want to remind everybody that down the boulevard and McElroy and everything else, we have trucks that are staging routinely, waiting to get into the mills. This is not something new to us with this establishment. This is something that happens every year in our city with the grain trucks. you go down the boulevard during harvest season, you'll have 7 or 8, 10 trucks backed up on the boulevard, in addition to the mills and industrial where they're trying to get to their locations.
Yes, but the zoning.
We have this happen on a
It's not
routine
residential.
basis. This isn't gonna be something new, so.
It's
again,
new
if-
on that kind of zoning.
If we're looking at passing ordinances, let's make sure that we understand what we're talking about doing, because
No, I wasn't talking about passing, because we already got road ordinance things. I was just talking about already what they got 2 pieces of property. One's zoned one way, one's zoned the other. And the one that's on the other is only allowed, or they have to drive through it to get to the piece that's zoned correctly.
correct.
That's what I was.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, is the highway is a no parking
Right.
area, right? But they're stacked along the highway also as they're waiting to get into their mills. That's kind of what we're talking about here. They're trying to get into a facility. Are they staging and trying to get in? Yes, they are. Are they parked and leaving the truck overnight? That's not what we're talking about. Is they're in the active course of business, I think we're gonna see that it's a little harder to enforce that overall.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cosette. I've got a couple guys who want to make another statement real quick. I got some.
I was just referencing exactly what
You can come back up here, just briefly. You can,
Sorry, thank
I
you.
want everybody to be able to hear you.
Just wanted to add on to that, and exactly as Police Chief was discussing, we regularly deal with large vehicles, 18-wheelers, for the wood shops, for the feeding, for Holy Guacamole. We deal with trucks, but they know that they are supposed to pull into their location. They know that they can leave elsewhere. They're not blocking our traffic. This specific site is coming through our entrance to our neighborhood. Those trucks will be waiting as they try to get into the main lane of traffic. That main lane of traffic is what has consistently been stopping not only ourselves from getting into our neighborhood, but will be stopping all this new traffic of the semis and 18-wheelers. When they were coming in, that was an issue. They were smart enough to wait outside or to find another location before they could come in. Now we're talking about them trying to leave, and on their way out, stopping there in the entrance on the driveway, idling, trying to get onto the main thoroughfare. Yes, a light may help that, but the issue is you're accepting between 68 and 100 semis added onto that, specifically entering and laying on that roadway, the entrance to our neighborhood. So I doubt that the infrastructure is ready for that. And somebody mentioned it, and it reminded me when I was working project management. I know we're Texas, we've got clay, and that's a little different to work with. But I do recall, and maybe the fire chief might know something about this, we tried to get some semis to drop off tons of steel out in Florida. And the local fire chief prevented the drop-off because the roadway from the highway to the location staging point was not up to weight standard. And the roadway had to be reconditioned, which pushed that project back almost a year and a half because they needed to find a contractor who could bring that road back up to weight. So I don't know what the roads are currently vetted for, but I highly doubt that they are vetted for 18-wheelers in our neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. You want to make one more statement, Mr. Goldberg? You can come back up real quick.
Again, it goes back to the zoning page of what community commercial can be used for, right? And the uses are in black and white, right? It doesn't say you can use it for a driveway for an 18-wheeler. It says heavy trucks cannot be used on that property, flat out. That's what it says in the code. It says uses permitted, heavy trucks not permitted. That's pretty much what that says for community care. That's a flat out black and white, right? There's no, well, we're gonna use it for a driveway or anything like that, right? That's a black and white, cannot be permitted. How it got permitted, beyond me. Should have been, that property, if he wanted to use it for that, should have been presented back to the zoning committee, brought to our attention, and rezoned, and the plats combined. That's how construction works, right? If you want to use it, and I want to use, if I want to build my business on this property and I want to cross through this property, I have to buy that property. I have to get it rezoned to be used as my business. Part of their building structure, when they put a sign out there, is a building structure, whether you call it a structure or not. What is it? It's a structure, right? I could put up a twig and put a sign on it, it's still a structure, right? By classification of a structure. It's supporting something, right? So when they put that sign out there on that property is not community commercial anymore. It's calling out for the light industrial property, right? And they brought up, move the sign. Well, that just makes it more easier for the truck to pass up the road and go into the neighborhood. So what sense does that make? Right? But the use of it is black and white. He can attest to it. The state says that you can be landlocked. The developer landlocked himself, unfortunately. But the city made the mistake of permitting that.
All right,
So-
thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
I want to say one thing. On these things, we defer to our lawyer and the law firm. And unfortunately, so far from what I've heard, is they disagree with you. So I'm not going to wade into, I know personally as counsel, I have to go with.
Right,
that's what he does.
and he can disagree with me, but when it gets to the point of we get a class action lawsuit to recover our losses, is the city prepared to take that on?
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. All right, anything else council want to add to this? Anything, clarifications from our council members? All right, I know there's a follow-up meeting in the next couple of weeks to keep moving forward with this. I appreciate the continued conversations.
I do
Yes,
have one.
Nick?
How long will it take us to get them the documentation, all that documentation?
Yeah, I think we can find the minutes when the plat was, there was action on the plat, and probably find out when it was recorded with the county. I
Yeah,
mean,
we can just, yeah.
we could probably do that tomorrow, I would guess. Yeah.
It's an open records request, so they
Yeah.
have 10
Well,
days
there is-
max.
I
No,
made the
we'll-
open
we'll
records
turn it
request
around.
already myself, so that's why I'm asking.
I can send it to the council tomorrow. I'm confident we have a record.
Okay.
Open
Yeah.
records request. Good.
All right, thank you, folks.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's keep this conversation going. Let's see if we can find a solution. We are down to 4D, consider action regarding approval of restaurant economic development agreement. Thank you, Valerie. Now you can leave.
Now I can leave.
Now you can leave. Thank you.
Y'all have fun.
Yeah. Consideration action regarding approval of restaurant economic development agreement contemplating the sale and lease of real property at 400 South Saginaw and 405 South Belmont. Mad Concepts Groups. Pedro.
Yes, I will, it's going to be a two-parter. I'm going to be talking to logistics, and then we're going to have Matt Concepts and their representative come up and do some more of the fun side of the presentation. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Hello once again. So if you recall, in 2023, the Saginaw Fire Department vacated the retired fire station off of the boulevard, which has been the home of City Hall, the library, the jail, and many multiple departments, including the fire department. The brand-new fire facility is right down the street. They moved there in 2023, and with council directions, with y'all's direction, we pursued a redevelopment. If you recall, the first redevelopment fell through, and then the council's pleasure was to once again find an RFP. So in December of 2024, the RFP bids closed, and we had one complete bid from Matt Concepts, which we presented to council at the January 7th executive session meeting. And there, y'all reviewed it, and we brought them for another executive session for further review of their presentations. And we had, I believe, 2 more executive sessions where, on the last one, council unanimously agreed, let's move forward with staff creating a 380 agreement. So that's what we're here, we are here today for that. We're here to, one, approve their bid, to accept their bid, and to approve the 380 agreement. I could definitely go into just summary about it. So the economic development agreement, the city agrees to convey the retired fire and senior center property. The city will provide $2.55 million economic development grants. And the way that's going to be broken down is at conveyance, it'll be $500,000. And then when their CO for both restaurants are open, there'll be $250,000, and then $250,000 annually until we get to that 2.55. Additionally, there will be waived building permit fees, planning fees, and any other fees that are within the 380 agreement, and that's going to be credited and taken from the 2.55. I can go into much more detail, and this was a team effort, so if I did miss something, my wonderful team on the side will definitely remind me, especially our city attorney. We do recommend to take action on the 380 agreement, subject to the final review and approval by the city attorney. The key points, which is the incentive payment dollars, are not going to change, just some legality details, which Brent explained to me, but he talked lawyer terms, and then it went, whew. So I'm a master's in public administration, not JD. So with that, We'll take any questions on that portion. If not, we can move on to their presentation.
Any questions for Pedro?
I just have one. When can we get the presentation to present to our citizens, like get them to come and present it?
7 seconds.
Yes, and about right now.
6.
Oh, you're here?
Yes.
5.
That's what Pedro was waiting on, yeah.
Yes, I was just waiting. I could definitely let them take over.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being patient.
You're welcome. Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members.
Please introduce yourself for the record.
My name's Carter Wilson. I'm with MAD Concepts Group.
I'm Cameron Hayes, same there.
And I believe we have a slide presentation that we will quickly roll through for you. First of all, let me just say, we're super excited about becoming part of your community. This means a lot to us. We love finding up-and-coming communities and getting super involved, making friendships, building relationships, and something we've talked about all along the way is creating a win-win scenario where the community wins, council wins, we win, everyone wins, and we bring something wonderful to your community. So I think the purpose of tonight, I believe all of you are familiar with the concepts and the group. It's more about describing the actual restaurants, but I'll just run through this real quick. MAD Concepts Group, we're a Dallas-based firm. MAD stands for Make a Difference, and Make a Difference is with our customers and our clients and our vendors and our family and our friends. I've been in the restaurant retail world for 25 years now. I've had plenty of opportunities to partner up with different restaurant operating groups, and this is the first and only one I've ever done it with, and it's because they're great people and they've built a great team, and I think that once you all get to know us better and experience us and experience our restaurants, you will feel that difference. I don't need to tell you much about Saginaw, but in terms of our goals, obviously we're looking to enhance the local dining scene. I think right now we've got an abundance of fast food restaurants and a couple of chain bigger restaurants out in the outskirts, and our goal is to bring local, best-in-class, full-service, family-friendly, affordable, and most importantly, something that is special to this city and that you all will take great pride in. The community engagement, that's something we really pride ourselves on, is getting involved with the high schools and the local communities and charities, et cetera. We feel like that's part of making a difference. And that's, we feel like when we get involved with we fondly call towns like yours big, small towns. And when we get involved with big, small towns, the way we differentiate ourselves is that we get involved and people get to know us and they see us out and getting involved in the community, and it makes them proud of us and we're proud of you, and it's kind of what makes it all work together. And lastly is the economic growth, by creating sales tax and bringing in visitors and creating jobs and construction and property taxes, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a number of wins that you all have obviously discussed already. This is a general site plan. It is not set in stone, but the gist of it is that we will take the portion of the fire station building where they actually park the trucks. Our goal is to continue to utilize that portion of the building, which is roughly 10,000+ square feet. We will demo the remainder of that building. We will demo the building, what we call the log cabin in the back, and then we will create a smaller Jake's building, which you'll see right there in the middle, and then the fire station building concept we'll get to in just a moment, but it's called Split Rail, and in just a minute I'll walk you through kind of what that concept stands for. Jake's, I would think most everyone is pretty familiar with. Jake's has been around for 40 years. MAD Concepts purchased Jake's about 5 years ago. And so we took a long-standing great brand, and I think, I'd like to say we waved our magic wand and made it bigger and better, and with better service and better people and a better atmosphere. And I would urge you to, it's not ever super convenient to make it down to Aledo, but if you haven't been to Aledo, that's kind of right now, it's kind of our flagship, and it'll give you a best idea of what a full Jake's can look like with the backyard and the patio and the full dining experience.
I've been there, and I encourage everyone to go visit the Aledo site. If that's what we get, and we get that plus, that'd be fantastic. So please, if you've not been to Aledo, go out there, check it out, get you a hamburger. It's a great space. I was really impressed. I did not know what to expect, but I love the outdoors. It's awesome.
And so this is a picture of the outdoor area, which we call the yard area at Jake's in Aledo. And the split rail concept here in your town will have, I wouldn't say exactly the same yard area, but a similar yard area, which we really focus on being a communal gathering space.
And real quick to interject, you can see the middle picture on the right side. That's more of an enclosed patio with some turf features as well at our Marsh location. And I would say the split rail concept, that backyard and covered patio would be a blend of Aledo as well as that middle right picture.
Perfect.
And also to interject as well, this Jake's location would be a drive-through. Our original location back in 1985 is the Skillman location. So you can see the kind of older feel there, which is what it's not going to feel like. It'll feel like the right three pictures, which is a blend of our Waco location.
And now we get to the fun, unique, different part, which I think is the major purpose of us being here tonight, is to tell you about a split rail steak and grill. I think the easiest way to describe split rail is, most of you all are familiar with Texas Roadhouse and or Saltgrass. I think of us as being local, better, and fresher. So that's really our tagline. We are emulating those concepts because I love the fact that they're family friendly and they're moderately affordable. There's a bar component. There may be a patio component. What we're trying to do is just take every aspect and element of the concept and elevate it. So from the interior, which you'll see some pictures here in just a moment, to the food itself, within our company, we're actual foodies. Okay, we really believe in it. I don't want to promote anything that I'm not proud of, saying I had a hand in that. And so generally speaking, the menu will have steaks, burgers, chicken fried steak, chicken fried chicken. We'll have a salad bar. There will be pork and ribs and all, just kind of a broad spectrum of things. And you'll have the ability to come in and have a higher price meal if you want to, or you can come in and keep it super reasonable. That is totally up to you. There will be a full bar, there will be a patio, and then behind the patio will be the yard component as well.
I've already got my menu ready, so.
This is torture. I haven't had.
Are you hungry? You getting hungry, Nikki?
That's right. I already medium rare steak, baked potato, sour cream. Let's bring it on.
Perfect.
Along with the mayor, I went out there on a Saturday night. I know Rebecca, your manager out there, and it was a great experience. It's what our residents have been asking for.
Right.
Kids in ball uniforms that came from practice or their games, parents out there. The fajita bar you guys had out there was pretty attractive to people as well, and I know that's just a couple nights a week, but this is what we're looking for.
Well, another element to us is that because we're not some big corporate chain, we have agility. We have the ability to adapt to what the community really wants and needs. And I'll take this moment to tell you that when we open a new concept, like for instance, when I said Jake's, I didn't say Jake's, I said Jake's Aledo. Okay, we reference every unit by its location because it's different. Okay, this is split rail, but this is split rail Saginaw. This is your split rail. Okay, and it's going to be different. We may have a couple more of them eventually. Okay, but this one's yours, and it's going to be specific to you. We're not going to just stamp out the same decor, the same menu, the same everything. Like this one is specific to you. These pictures up here you'll see will give you an idea of the finish out of the spaces. And so, we're really trying to go a step or two above the salt grasses and the Texas Roadhouses. You know, leather, open flame grill, you know, nice bar. So I think it'll be something you'll be very proud of and happy with. And then lastly, just kind of differentiators. I mentioned the wood-fired grill. You know, old school charm. It's going to be a warm retro steakhouse with Texas grit. That's kind of what we've landed on of what captures what we're trying to accomplish. You know, the hidden gem is that rare mix of authenticity yet affordability. And so I know that that's what's important to this community, and that's why we landed on this concept in particular, is because it's what you don't have, but yet it is what you want. And the affordable dining we've addressed, the gathering place for generations. You know, that's something you're mentioning. You know, we pride ourselves on being family friendly, okay? It would be great to have a kid's soccer team roll in. At the same time, we'd love to have grandpa's birthday party and everything in between. And lastly, the activated patio experience. You know, visiting is not just for dining, it's an experience. And I think that, you know, in Saginaw, to have a communal gathering place where it's just kind of, it's where you have all your events. It's just where you always seem to land. It's someone's birthday party. It's some celebration for whatever reason, and we look forward to providing that offering to you. And that is, that's kind of the gist of it. I'm open to questions if anyone.
Questions, council? Question, Mary, go ahead.
Not a question, but a comment or several comments. Pedro had handed us a document that was created in 2016, which was the Strategic Plan for Economic Development, which you've heard. And in the upper right-hand corner of that document, I couldn't help but notice a quote that says, "We cannot predict the future, but we can create it." And I think that's pertinent to this development. I also feel strongly that it will be a destination project. I like the community gathering place. I like the fact that it's family-oriented and you can spend several hours there just having fun with your family or just chilling out. And it's something that our residents have been asking for. So I just think it's a wonderful concept.
Thank you very much.
Other questions? Cindy, go ahead.
Pedro had alluded to this earlier in the evening. I don't think you were here, but you know, the Stockyards is just 5 miles down the road. Stockyards is a great place for adults to visit, but they really don't have a lot of family-friendly venues, and I think this would be a great opportunity to reach out to that area and say, hey, we're here for you and your kids. How would you market that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've put 3 or 4 or 5 establishments in the Stockyards. I'm very, very familiar with it. And you're right, that there's millions of visitors there. That's an untapped vehicle. I have to admit, I did hear something earlier where someone mentioned that you are 5 miles, or we are 5 miles from the Stockyards. I didn't realize it was that close. So honestly, I don't know, because I haven't thought about it before tonight, but we will make note of it and we will address it.
One thing I could add is we do have a full social media staff and budget allocated, especially opening for not only, like we said, the specific location on that page, but also doing targeted ads across the community and also picking hotspots that we see similar demographics, like-minded people that want to come to our venue.
I'll add a comment to that too. Nick and I and Brack went last week to the Chamber's DMO thing, and the Chamber's actually working on it. It'll be coming back to council soon on the digital marketing thing to draw people. You know, we're going to pay a portion of it, a smaller portion than some of the other cities, but to promote people to come to this.
Great.
It's going to basically they'll be able to pick different things that are in Saginaw and that are available. So.
Brad?
Yeah, so for the people who haven't read through the presentation, Would you kind of go over like some of the details of how many people you're planning on hiring and bringing in? So what kind of job creation does this create for opportunities for Saginaw? And kind of speak to that for a minute.
So with restaurants, it is hard to give an exact number with part-time and full-time, but I can say that in most of our, let's say, 4,500 square foot locations, we have between 60 and 90 employees. This location between the two restaurants is going to be closer to 11 to 12,000, so I think a safe expectation would be 100 employees up to 150.
Thank you.
Nick?
I'm good. You answered all my questions.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Another comment. This, as Gabe mentioned, we're controlling our own destiny with this. If we were to just go and sell this piece of property, we'd end up with another strip center, with a donut shop, nail salon, whatever. And this is also going to spur economic development and revitalization of that side of Saginaw. Once this happens, other companies and restaurants and businesses are going to want to come into that area as well.
Well, and that's a great point, and that's kind of one of the points that I typically make to cities when I'm starting my conversations. Because normally, some of the cities we've gone to in the past, if there wasn't a pioneer that had already paved the path and showed that they could come in and do something out of the ordinary, not be fast food and not be out on the highway, then we wouldn't be as confident as we are, okay? It just so happens that one of our partners, who unfortunately was not able to be here tonight, but he grew up over in this general vicinity. So he knows the city, he knows how it works, he knows who's here, he knows the traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't have that concern. But to your point, we will pave that path for you. And there will be further people who will come and say, look what those guys are doing. I would love to play second fiddle to that.
Mary?
Yeah, Mary, go ahead.
Another positive aspect, we have an overlay district for Saginaw Boulevard, and that is a very long-term process that takes years to accomplish. But something like your project would upgrade the look of Saginaw Boulevard so much. And, that could be done more quickly than this long process. So I think that would be an extra advantage.
And I appreciate you mentioned this when we talked before about paying homage to the building that was there, the fire station, as much as possible. There are some issues with that building, but whatever you can do, whatever you can save, we would appreciate. That would be awesome. Absolutely. Whatever you can to artwork, pictures, whatever. I know we've talked about donating fire equipment or old fire equipment. We would love to work with you to make that a historical type.
400% on board for that.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Very, very good. Any other questions for these gentlemen?
Ready to vote.
All right. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for the time.
Pedro, you got?
I'm just here to finish it up, but something I was asked to add is Ben Burke had a similar deal, and I talked to their economic development folks, and Jessica James, she said she spoke highly of this group, so we're in good hands.
Okay.
And with that, it's
This is an unusual request, but since pending our election, do you have any questions, Sean? You're not on us yet, but you will be soon. So if you got a question, bring it on.
No, I would just say that it's been a long time we've been waiting for something like that. So, but to get involved with the local sports, we've got PYBSA, SYA, Eagle Mountain Youth Association. To do, I know the pizza buffet over on Boat Club, it's not Saginaw, but they do with the coaches, they give coupons, and then they also sponsor, and it drives a lot of teams to have their team parties there. So if you get plugged in there, it's very low cost. You don't have a lot of advertising for social media. It's low cost and big return. All over.
Thank you, guys. All right, so I think Brack's question was a motion. What is any kind of wording we need to say on this motion to approve this? Brent, any guidance?
It can simply be to approve item 4D as presented.
Okay. Oh, one thing, and we're pending final legal approval. Will you explain what you would? Yeah.
Correct. So today we received some requests for some minor edits that our office looked at and didn't deem to be substantive or significant. But as you see, there's still some blanks in the agreement. It hasn't been signed, so ordinarily, if it's not a done deal completely, you would want to add the condition that it be subject to final city attorney approval. And thank you for the reminder, Mayor.
Yeah, and Brendan said before, if he had any major concerns, it would come back to us.
That's right, that's right. If we receive additional feedback and requests for modifications to the actual deal points, that is not included in the scope of that type of motion, and I would bring it back.
Okay. All right, well, I'm ready for motion.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve item 4D, subject to any revisions by the attorney, to move forward with the sale and lease of the retired fire station. Rock, paper, scissors?
There you go. Cindy seconds, excellent. Way to jump over them. There you go. There you go. Oh, well.
You still have the speaker timer screen. Do you have to get out of that?
I don't know. I shouldn't have to. Do I? I can't get to that screen.
There, topics.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Of course, Councilmember Junkerfield has to abstain from this. So motion passes. Welcome to the neighborhood. We look executive session. So pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. At 8:50, we are in executive session. We will return to adjourn. Paul, sit down. Paul, Nikki, sit down. All right, at 9 PM, we're back from executive session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Cindy made a motion.
I'll second.
Brack, second.
Come on.
Please cast your votes. Motion passes at 9 PM. We are adjourned. Thank y'all.
All those food pictures make